press 4 for a freeway. Let's think about who? Let's think about what? Let's think about sluts. Do they know they're sluts? Let's find out. A disclaimer. You're a bitch, bitch. And you should feel like a bitch, bitch. Good cookies and blank on them. Give the icing. So sticky. You should fuck. You should fuck. You should fuck men again and again. Even on a phone. Even on a dick. Even on a bad day. Even on a phone. Even on a dick. Even on a bad day. I go bend over, slap the ass. I go bend over, slap the ass. I go bend over, slap the
I make all my songs live on Twitch. You can check that out in the link down below.
Hi, welcome, welcome. It's good to see you. Today we're doing a usual Monday stream, which means that if you have any questions about life, the universe, or what to do about your ex-girlfriend, you can totally ask me today because we are focusing on chat. So everything you say and do today directs the conversation. And I am going to say, I'm going to put in a special request. And if you've been here many, many times, I'm going to ask that you don't ask questions that make the others that are new here complain. So, like, I don't want to hear a single one of you hop in all of a sudden and go, why are you always talking about sex? Why are you always complaining about men? Why are you always... There's like 3 subjects that we get onto, and it just enrages the newcomers. So let's make this a newcomer-friendly stream, shall we? Let's make it a welcoming environment. Let's ease them into that talk, shall we? That's my only request. Why are you never petting Pete? Hang on. Let me get proper chat up, because I'm looking at little chat, and my eyes ain't good no more. Sonny, thank you so much. I hope you're doing good. Cody, thank you as well. What's that new shelving behind you? Oh, I just have started ever so slightly decorating a little bit. You can't really see it, but I can enjoy it, so that's enough for me. Like, it's just a blur back there, but it's pretty when you look at it up close, I promise you. It's got a lot of trinkets on there. Hey, Cody, thank you so much, sweetheart. And thank you for the 10 gifties. You're amazing. I hope you're having a good week. I just had some building work done and it's gone wrong and a leak has broken my TV. What do I do? Lol. So there are a lot of generic, like, we can make a bingo card of things that I quite often say, and this one sometimes surprises people, Alex, but bear with me before you judge my answer. Have you tried Reddit, Dick? Because sometimes if you go on the right Reddit page and put a post, and if you take a picture of the leak and explain the situation, sometimes like a lawyer will come in and be like, lawyer here, you can actually get compensation, and if they don't, because you have the evidence and it's accessible right now, you can do X, Y, Z and get lots of money, and things like this. Like, the most helpful responses I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the internet's a really good place to crowdsource information if you just find the right place to post it, because there was a lady I just came across on my TikTok before this stream, and she's pregnant, 6 months pregnant, very uncomfortably pregnant, and she bought a plane ticket, and they kicked her off the plane because mind you, they stipulated the price of the tickets because she paid a very low price for her ticket specifically, and they oversold the plane tickets. So the people who paid more for the ticket are getting to stay, and they're booting her off. Mind you, her husband was there and was not being kicked off, so he got upset, and they got escorted off the plane. It was actually explained to them, it's because she paid the least for the older oversold tickets, right? And somebody who works in the industry literally gave her the exact outline of exactly why this specific airport owes her about £2,000 now, and that how she can claim it, exactly what link she can claim it through, and exactly what legal pathways she can use if they don't oblige. And it was all incredibly clearly laid out for her. So sometimes, if you're not sure how to deal with these specific things, the internet is 1,000 voices, and not all of those voices are useful. It's true. Sometimes people will give you really bad advice. I'm sure there'll be at least one person who's like, have you tried filling the crack with your dick or something stupid like that? However, they tend to get downvoted, and the ones that are the most verified and most useful tend to get upvoted. Just because there are a lot of idiots on the internet doesn't mean that like the best comments go unnoted. So yeah, this is the kind of thing where if I wasn't sure about the procedure, I would ask Reddit. You don't dox yourself and don't like say what apartment building you're in or nothing. But if you literally go on the right r/ on the right Reddit page and go, what can I do? Like especially if you state what country you're in. Excuse me, are you messing with my fossils? Please don't mess with my fossils. You should be able to get a really helpful answer that's specific to your area and the laws where you live. Alex Leoparday, thank you so much for the 33-month, by the way. And Rain, thanks for the 20 gifties, sweetheart. Thank you, thank you. And yeah, I appreciate the tier 3 as well. You're amazing. Oh, Cody, why are you doubling up on me here? I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm just surprised. Thank you for getting a YouTube membership too, sweetheart. Hey, Shady. Thanks for the 70-month. That's so huge. And Mert, thanks for the 10 gifties. Listen, I started a throne thing. So, like, if you've been on my Discord lately, you might see that there's an extra channel. And every couple of days or so, I'm going to post a video of the rabbits enjoying the treats that you've got them. So, there's now a link to Throne. You should be able to see it in the channel description. I think there's also a command, maybe. But yeah, you can find this Throne thing. Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's it. Right in chat. Thank you, Sonny. And people have been going on that, and basically whatever you buy on there just gets sent straight to my house. And I've just put a list of bunny stuff on there, and people have been going ham. So I bought Pete a new girlfriend. Well, you bought Pete a new girlfriend, and it's a very love-hate relationship. Yeah, he kisses her a lot and then digs on her and tries to tear her apart and then kisses her a bit. And then tries to nurse as well. He tries to nuzzle under her and see if he can get some milk as well. So I don't know if he sees her as an enemy, a lover, or a mother. It's anyone's guess. How do you deal with someone who can't read the room? So do you have to deal with them? Because usually someone who can't read the room is not someone you can fix. Oh, hey, thank you so much for the cake. Hell yeah. They love the cake. They've been demolishing the cake. They had their first ever cake a while ago, I think before I went for surgery. And they loved it. They were so excited about it, but it went too quickly. So they're going to be so excited to have one again. Because it's been a long time in bunny time since they last had one. But yeah, how do you deal with someone who can't read the room? Not everybody is going to be able to gain that skill. And if you're dealing with someone who isn't like 7 years old, if you're dealing with someone who's like 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, there's a good chance that they are not going to improve. So my policy with people who you know are not going to improve is you have 3 options. You can communicate with them and set boundaries and say, hey, if that happens again, I'm dropping you. So you can give them a warning, but in a really polite way. Like, I really want to get on with you. I think you're really great in all these ways, and I would love to have that in my life. And if you want to preserve that friendship too, and you want to know me for a very long time, I think we need to have a discussion about something that's been really bothering me. And I'm not bringing it up to bash you. I'm literally bringing it up because I want to know you for a long time, because I want our friendship to get stronger. So I hope you take this the way it's meant. See, you established like we're collabing. It's us against the problem. It's not me against you and what you did. It's us against the problem, you know? Do you want to help us be better friends? Because most people are like, hell yeah to that. Whereas if you're like, do you want to stop being a fucking dick and making mom jokes at my mom's funeral? Like that people are gonna be like really defensive. That will make people double down. Okay. But if you're like, I would like to be better friends with you, would you like to be better friends with me too? Because I have this thing to work through with you, and I only want to bring it up just to make sure that we can have the kind of friendship that is awesome, you know? So you could go down that route. You can abandon them. You can ghost them. You can be like, there are some things about you that just do not gel with me, and I do not want to have to deal with it anymore. I only get one life, and you make me suffer in a way that is completely optional. So you are no longer one of my options. And you don't even need to explain yourself with that. You can just drift either immediately or slowly, whichever one suits you. And the other one that you can try out of my suggestions is to make so when someone makes something awkward, push it back on them. If someone's trying to tip a bunch of shit in your garden, push over the wheelbarrow before it gets to your house. Okay? So, like, you do that when if someone can't read the room, it means there's other people there. So you turn to them, and if they say an unfunny joke that is really mean, you go, I don't get it. Could you explain the joke? And then they have to explain how you're the butt of the joke. And they have to explain in great detail why they are the asshole. Most people find that incredibly confronting and upsetting, and they're like, never mind. And you go, no, I really don't get it. What's the joke? And they're like, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, surely, if it's that funny, I want to know. And they back down and they get all red in the face and like, I'm sorry, no. Because no one's going to go, because you're really ugly and spotty and no one would ever date you. Like, no one's going to say that. Because when you say it like that, everyone in the room has to acknowledge you're an asshole. You can't hide from what you were really saying, right? Only works if you're in high school. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. A lot of people don't develop past that, especially the kind of people who put you in this position. So another one is if somebody has done something deeply inappropriate and it's not okay, you can ask them about it in front of everybody. It's like, hey, when you decided to read all of the medication from my bathroom that time you visited to everyone at the house party, I just wanted to understand your thinking on that because obviously we've already discussed that I keep my medications private, and that's not something I want to share with everyone. So I kind of feel like you knew that before you told everybody, and I just wanted to know why you did that and what the intentions were there, and bring it up just in front of everyone. Just like if there's a friend group chat, you ask them there. Like if you're all sat having coffee, you ask them then. Because I feel like people will gaslight you one to one, but they will back down immediately and apologize in front of everybody else. And it also keeps a log so they can't keep doing it. The thing is, I used to be one of these people who was super understanding when I was younger, and it got me in a lot of trouble, and I've learned better. You have to be a savage bitch. You just have to be. And one of the things that taught me that was I kept making excuses for people because I was socially inept for a long time because I was very isolated. So when other people made social faux pas, I saw the best in them. I was like, oh, I was socially inept too. They just don't understand. And I was very forgiving, right? And I shouldn't have been. I've adopted a policy now where I just treat everybody as if they know what they're doing. Because it's the only way they'll learn if they don't. And if they are, then giving them grace will just make them more dangerous. Because if you teach people what you will tolerate, they will push it and push it further. So if somebody can't read the room, treat them as if they're doing it intentionally. Is there a link to the throwing wish list? Yes, there is. Would someone like to put it in again? Thank you. The mods already did that. Amazing. Do hedgehogs visit your garden? Eartha Mensch, no, they don't. Thank fuck. I love hedgehogs, and I actually bought a hedgehog box. For my dick, for my for little hedgehog visitors, and I was so excited, and I was like really hopeful. I was like, I wonder if any come to my thing, and I went all out and I bought one with a camera in it because I wanted to see who was coming into my hedgehog box. Um, And like literally a few days before I put it out, I put it on my list, I was like, Friday, I'm gonna put it out. And I discovered that there are badgers visiting my garden. And badgers can eat hedgehogs, unfortunately. So, and they don't eat them nicely. So I do not want hedgehogs coming to my garden anymore. And I'm not gonna tempt them. I'm not gonna put out anything that would encourage hedgehogs at all. I did not know that. What the fuck? Yeah. They eat them the way bears eat them. You know, bears will eat you to death rather than kill you and then eat you. Yeah. So I love hedgehogs too much to encourage them, sadly. Jim! Hello, sweetheart, thank you! And 3R1K007. Thank you so much for the gift sub as well. Interesting name. Wait, how do you eat some living thing nicely? You start chewing after they're dead. Like, you give them a quick death. So, I don't eat animals, but if I did eat animals, I would not chew them to death. Your thoughts on Count Binface? So, Count Binface has never ever been a genuine, serious candidate. He has never actually joined these debates and these elections to win. Oh my god! Oh my god! Bitch tits! Who did that? Oh, Zafu, you absolute legend, thank you so much. Everyone went crazy. Yeah, that was so cool! Well, the bunnies are gonna have the time of their lives. Oh my god, you bought so much! Got the flowers too! You went all out! You absolute legend. Well, I'm gonna have a lot of videos to make on Discord for you all now. So thanks for that. But yeah, I forgot what I was saying. Do you guys remember what I was saying? Because I have no idea anymore. Oh yeah, Count Binface, thank you so much. Do you have enough space to store all of that? Yes, I do. Luckily, I live in bumfuck nowhere, and the price of a, to like a multiple bedroom place is very cheap here. So I have space, don't worry. I got that child-free single lady kind of space going on, you know? But Binface has never been a legit candidate. So it would be fucking hilarious if he actually did win. And he won for such an amazing reason, which was that all of England coming together to say a giant fat fucking fuck you to the guy who ushered in an unnegotiated Brexit. Oh, thank you, Mer. I appreciate it. That is crazy. Everyone's going wild with the throne things today. Thank you so fucking much. Yes, perfect. Yeah, I mean, all of the world has been rooting for him. There are videos about Count Binface where people have been like, I'm not even in the UK, but go Binface. I wish I could vote for him. And the thing is, it's only a local election for one particular town, so it's not like everyone up and down the country can vote for him, as far as I understand. It's just a local election. And the whole point of it, it's just a big farce. So Farage stepped down from his position in his party, and he was going to go back to being just a local council member. So he entered into get the vote because he had to step down, and now he wants this election to be but the people want me. Look, I can't go away forever because the people still want me, to kind of prove that he's still desired as a candidate, etc. And the thing is, a lot of people really deeply disagree with him and what he did, because he kind of laughed at us after lying to us about Brexit. So when Brexit was presented for vote, it hadn't been negotiated. There were no terms of that Brexit. So when it was when everyone voted on it, they were really excited, especially racist people, because they're like, it's gonna make our bread British and stuff, right? It's gonna get the dark people out. We're gonna get rid of the immigrants in it because it'll be Brexit. And obviously that's not what Brexit was. Nobody explained what the leaving the EU, what the deal would be there. And the deal that they negotiated after it was voted for was utterly shit. They decided on the terms after we said, yeah, okay, do it. And those terms utterly fucked everybody and our entire economy. And all of the campaign things that they did, like they had a bus going around saying we give this many millions of pounds every year to the EU, why not give it to the NHS instead, was on their campaign fucking coach as they went around lying to everybody, right? And actually it's cost us way more than to leave Brexit every single year since than the EU ever did. And none of that has gone to the EU, the NHS. Since Brexit, the NHS has gotten even poorer and crappier. So people were really fucking mad at Nigel Farage. People were especially angry at him. And initially, when he was challenged on the fact that he did that, there's a clip of him on the morning show laughing and admitting, yeah, maybe that was a bit of a fib, oh well, kind of thing, not taking it very seriously. I'm paraphrasing here. And so like people fucking hate that guy because the damage that it did to the economy, the damage it did to lots of industries, including like the fisheries and stuff like that, was so deeply horrendous that people have gone bankrupt. People have lost their home, like their family businesses that have been in their family for generations and shit over the economic crisis that Brexit has put us in. And it's now undeniable. It's not under debate at all. It's 100% proven that we are worse off economically because of Brexit. And the people who knew before we did Brexit, the people who warned us and were like, by the way, Brexit's really dangerous and you won't see an economic benefit for the first 50 years. By the way, you will have to wait 50 years. And most of the people who are voting for it are not going to be alive by the time we financially benefit from it. So you are passing a lot of debt and struggles onto children, essentially. They're going to have to grow up in the economy you fucked. Don't do this. And they did it anyway because they didn't know what it meant. So yeah, I blame Farage for that. A lot of people in the UK blame Farage for that. People do not like Nigel Farage. And so this is one of the many, many, many reasons why people are like, please, just vote in the joke guy, vote in the comedian who isn't very serious, just to prove to this man that just to humiliate him, just to prove to him that we don't want any more of his nonsense, any more of his lies. Please. But Slim Shady Ho, Slim Shady Ho says, my hamster died and it was my fault. I don't know how to process the guilt of it all. I put a cardboard box in her cage and she got stuck inside of it, and it's been hard dealing with it. How do you have any advice? I feel like you didn't know, and a lot of people give their hamsters cardboard boxes, so I'm really, really surprised that that's how your hamster went. I've kept hamsters for 30 years. I've had many hamsters in my life, and I've given them little mini cardboard boxes and things, and they've always been fine. I didn't know that that was a risk, so I'm glad you told me because I will never give them a cardboard box again if I ever have another hamster. But like, if you couldn't know and you had the best of intentions, I don't know that you could blame yourself. I feel like you can blame yourself if it ever happens again. Like if you took that cardboard box out of the enclosure and just bought a new hamster today and then gave that hamster that box, I think maybe you could blame yourself if the next hamster dies. But I feel like it was a freak accident and those things happen. And sometimes it's really hard to have compassion for your dick, for yourself when you're the one in this position. But like if a parent lost their child because their kid went in the other room and choked themselves out in less than a minute with a cardboard box and it was like a freak accident that nobody could have seen coming, would you have blamed the parent who just lost their kid in this really obscure way, even though you were a little kid who'd been alone with cardboard boxes and been fine? Right? Or would you be like, fuck, I'm so sorry for your loss. What a strange thing to happen. And if you could extend that compassion to somebody else in your position, I think that maybe that'll help you shift the perspective and give yourself a little bit of the kindness you would give others. But yeah, I'm really sorry about your ham. This is the thing about guilt, though. Thanks, Craig. I'm just gonna say guilt is usually not actually a useful emotion. It's usually a performance that we do for ourselves to convince ourselves that we're good people. Because if you're a wolf and you cry after a kill, does it make you any less of a killer? Does it make you any less of a predator? Does it mean that the lamb is any less dead? It doesn't really honor anyone or fix anything to emotionally flagellate yourself after everything that you do that you wish you could have done better. The fact of the matter is that usually guilt acts as a way for us to reinvent ourselves. Because if our actions don't line up with our idea of ourselves, then our guilt is our way of proving to ourselves that we're still a good person. And so a lot of guilt, even if it's inside and you're the only one who sees it, a lot of it is very performative. And it does have a good use. I mean, feeling terrible about something and having regrets is how you really virulently avoid making the same mistakes in the future. And that's a really useful mechanism. But the point where it gets where you are no longer helping yourself, no longer serving yourself or others, then it is just a performance to make you feel like a better person than your actions maybe made you out to be. Because we're very protective of our self-image. We need to believe that that we are good. So guilt helps us to believe we are good after we do bad things, or dumb things, or make mistakes we never thought we'd make. Brr. Please no one make the brain rot thing. I'm too old for this. I don't know what that's in relation to, but thanks for the 67-month, Arlene. I've never had anyone come into my chat and say I'm too old for this, like ever. Majestic, thank you so much for giving giving a question that the mods like, because the mods made sure that you that I saw this and answered this, so I hope you're still here. Wanted to ask you a question. I'm in a situation where I can't really decide things for myself at this moment, and wanted to ask you if you had any advice to go through such a hard time when you're limited in your action for an undetermined time frame. Okay. Do you get does everyone else understand that question? Because I'm struggling, like, to understand what you're asking me. Could someone paraphrase that? My reading comprehension is bad. No, no, nobody knows what you're asking. Can you read it again? Wanted to ask a question. I'm in a situation where I can't really decide things for myself at this moment, and wanted to ask you if you had any advice to go through such a hard time when you're limited in your action and for an undetermined time frame. I think I will happily ask your question if you rephrase it, sweetheart. Try again. Because at the moment, I like it sounds like you're in a pickle, bitch, but it also sounds like you just pressed the middle button on your phone and just did the predictive text thing. I feel like I'm talking to predictive text right now. Beautiful fish. Hello. Thank you so much for the prime. They don't really have control over their life and they wanted advice on how to go through it, having limited agency at this time. Oh, so usually people go through this in their teenhood and you just have to wait it out. And that sucks. And that is just a period of helplessness that we all go through. There will be multiple periods of helplessness in your life. If you're very lucky and you get to age, um, there will come a time where you have very little agency or control over your quality of life or how things go for you or where you live or like when you get to go to the bathroom and when you get to eat and all these things. There will be times throughout your life where you do not have control. And sometimes it will look like you get to have control until you actually get there as well. Like maybe you've been looking forward to a new job because you want to have more money and more control over your life because that money would open a lot of doors. And then you get there and the job is awful and you have to really suck up to really awful people every day and you feel even less in control than you ever did before. Sometimes there's the promise of control that never really arrives. And all I'll say is that because it's inevitable that you won't be able to control anything throughout your life, that you're just very, very lucky when you get to dictate anything about your existence, to be honest with you. These moments are a good training ground, especially because it sounds like this is temporary. So it's a good time to kind of work the muscles, be well practiced in finding the joy in life, even when there isn't control. Finding the meaning and the things that are worth struggling for when you don't get to control the outcome. Because if you don't have control, you genuinely do have to wait it out, and that sucks. Yeah, gaining EXP on this particular area is really good for you because it gives you confidence. Like some people like, you seem so confident. How are you so confident? For me personally, I went through a bunch of shit. And it's like if people judge me or like I mildly embarrass myself or whatever, it's not going to be as bad as the things I've survived. So once you have a massive portfolio of the worst case scenarios and how well you dealt with it and how everything got better after in the end, you kind of worry less about outcomes. So if you're going through something that is really trying right now and you don't get to control anything and it's a real struggle and it hurts, but it's temporary, this is going to be part of your confidence portfolio because down the line, you're going to be very, very much more relaxed in a lot more settings now that you've done a little bit of hard mode. Yeah, I do think like these moments do pay it forward and they help you to really enjoy life after. Open my eyes. Thank you so much for the 49 month, by the way. I'm Blackpool Dave. Thanks for the 10. I appreciate it. Oh, so the mods are like, hey, by the way, the YouTube folk probably don't know much about surgery. So I've just been away because I've had a surgery. Like, I was sick and needed surgical intervention. I've still got the bandages on. And I still have to tend to my wounds for a bit. They put me on Fent. I never ever thought I'd be able to tell people what it's like to be on Fent. That was a surprise. Apparently makes me very talkative, very sleepy, and gives me wild fucking dreams. Aren't you always very talkative, though? I mean, I'm slow to message back and I don't know what to say. But on Fent, I'm really good at conversations, apparently. Way better. Not that I'm promoting it, by the way. Don't do Fent. Don't do that. But, like, I'm just saying, what about Fent and its effect on ticks? I knew someone was gonna fucking ask that! I was joking about it with one of my mods. I messaged one of my mods. I was like, they fucking put me on fentanyl! What the fuck? And they were like, you should film it. You should post a video like, what is your Tourette's on fentanyl? I was like, fucking hell! Because people do. People just think that they can just encourage me to do a cocktail of drugs. They're like, how does cocaine affect your Tourette's? It's like, why the fuck would I know? How rude! Like, I'm not gonna let you all experiment on me. Like, this isn't a group project. We're not doing a science here. Like, my brain barely works as it is. I'm not wearing it away on every last drug you suggest. Like, there are people like, how does LSD affect it? Have you done ayahuasca? Like, no. Like, this is the problem with being, what's the word? My brain is trying to say all my brain in the bucket of words is saying is special needs. That is not the word I'm looking for, brain. Come on. When you're neurodivergent, right? And you don't know how you're going to respond to drugs because it's not going to be the same as everybody else. It is such a fucking gamble to try drugs. Okay, so that number one puts me off. Number two, everyone I know who did drugs at some point in their lives that are really harsh drugs, right? Tends to have a piece of them that is worn away and they don't seem to get it back. And it seems to be the bit of you that questions yourself before you act and regulates your emotions to the point where, and in such a specific way, where I can tell, like, I will literally be able to tell someone used to do drugs without them saying and be like, hey, by the way, did you ever have a phase where you did drugs? And they're like, yeah, how do you know? And it's like, I can't tell you. That would be rude, but I figured, you know? And it's like, that part of my brain is so important to me. I'm very, very close with it. I would like it to remain, personally. I agree, Anita, because I have epilepsy and I've been put on. I have and some of the drugs I've been put on are such a gamble. It's basically like what you're saying. So I'm sorry you have to go through that. I mean, it's so much worse when it's like you need these drugs to survive and to manage your life, but they also have other side effects, like psychological side effects. Because like there's a heart medication that reduces your capacity for empathy. And that's not a listed side effect. But it's true. So you can have personality changes that are dictated by drugs, both medicinal drugs and recreational ones. So I'm really, really delicate with my brain because, like, my brain is the most complicated thing and the most precious and rare thing I've ever been given in my life. Right? Thanks, Mom. Because like in the universe, we don't know of much life, right? Life is rare. And brains are even rarer, right? And then even on our planet, brains with this level of complexity are even fucking rarer than that when you think about it. Of all the trillions of life forms on this planet, we are the ones who get these rare. We're humans, I know we're very highly populated, but we're still technically rare. And so I got this really amazing operating system and I'm not about to just pour glue all over it. I'm not gonna be like, that's nice, and just like roll it all over some lint and bash it about and like, you know, when I die, I want it to be like a high grade, my brain. What's the grading system they use for magic cards? You know when you go to get them graded and they grade them from like used and played to like high grade? The PSA. I want my brain to have a good PSA. No scuffed edges, not dented in any places. Yeah. Can't guarantee that if I do the magic mushrooms or the LSD or the cocaine, right? And it's funny because I have really bad ADHD, right? Really, really bad. And I'm the kind of person who has like I'll start doing the laundry and I'll go upstairs with the basket to get the laundry and I'll notice that my toothbrush needs a wash. So I'll start washing my toothbrush and then I'll notice that my makeup brushes need a wash. So I'll start washing those. But then I'll notice that the soap is gone. So I'll go to the shop to get some soap and then I'll go there and forget what I was looking for and buy some chocolate and then come home and see that I didn't get any of those tasks done and it's bedtime now. That's me, right? And people like me, there's a lot of them in the industry. If you've ever watched a live stream with more than like 100 people watching, that person probably has ADHD to the point where I think follow account should be part of the diagnostic criteria, for fuck's sake. If you've ever gone to a streamer award ceremony or anything like that, you look around and you're like, yep, being a content creator should be a diagnostic criteria. There is just not a normal brain in here, not a single one, right? Nobody can stay in their seat. People are coming in and out, talking over the show. Like, QE gave everyone Pepe-themed coloring books with crayons, and it worked. People stayed in their fucking seats. We are very, very ADHD here over here, right? And there are people, I will not name them, but there are people I've met in the industry who do the special happy white powder. And when I've talked to them about it, because I'm like curious, I'm not curious enough to try it, but I'm like, why in the fuck, why is this appealing? What is this doing to you? What does that feel like? And I want to know without ever knowing. You know what I mean? So I ask, and they were just like, oh, it's how I found out I had ADHD because people with ADHD react to it differently. And I was like, how do they react differently? And it's like, well, they can get stuff done. Like everyone else is out there partying, and all of a sudden you're doing an essay that's due like in a week's time. You know, like you can suddenly focus, you just get shit done, right? And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I feel like that's what really opened my eyes to the fact that, yeah, drugs don't interact with non-neurotypical people the same as everyone else. And a lot of people, like people with autism, for example, sometimes have really, really bad experiences with recreational drugs because it does not impact them the way it does everybody else. And it just gives them terrible, terrible time, for example. So for me, I'm just like really precious with my brain. And I'm like, I do not, no, not for me. No, thank you. I have ADHD, but I also have Asperger's, and it's a terrible combo. So for the longest time, oh, thank you, Annexess, I appreciate it. For the longest time, I genuinely believed that it was pronounced Asperger's, and the first time I heard that term and had no idea what it meant, I thought this was an oversharing situation. I was like, how did you get Asperger's? Like, what happened to your ass? Right? Why is it called Asperger's? That sounds huge. That sounds like whatever happened to you, whatever has happened to your ass, it is huge. It's a terrible name. But now they don't really usually call it that, do they? They say on the spectrum. Because like Asperger's was like meant to be like autism light, like on the spectrum of like one to the other, and then they just blended it all. And we're just like we're not gonna call it that. That's not a grading thing anymore. We're gonna go you're on the spectrum. There is a spectrum, you're somewhere on it. But it's the same with ADHD. I remember when I first got told I had ADHD, I was 16. I was told by an assessor at my university, and they did these like tests. I did this thing, and they're like, "Yep, you definitely have ADHD. You also have dyslexia, by the way. Good luck with that." So I come home and I tell my mom and her boyfriend at the time, and her boyfriend was like, "Don't tell people that you have that." And I was like, "Why? What's wrong with having ADHD?" I'd heard nothing about ADHD. And they're like, "Don't tell people you have ADHD because that is embarrassing and people won't like you." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because it's an attention deficit disorder. It means you seek attention. It means you don't get enough attention and you're an attention seeker. And that's a bad thing." And I'm like, "What? What?" I feel like whoever chose to name these neurological conditions should be fired. How? How do they always pick, like, literally the worst fucking names for everything? Also, someone with a really interesting name, I think it's Firelin? Says, "I don't know if you remember, I asked you for advice about a situation where I was seeing a guy who was still living with his ex, and the ex was refusing to acknowledge the breakup or move out. Just wanted to let you know that it took a while, but we got there in the end, and the ex is gone, and we're very happy together." That's amazing. I'm so glad that worked out for you. I have no idea what I had to say about the situation, but I think it's fucking fantastic that you made it work. That's a really challenging one. You can tell a relationship is strong when they can get through something like that. That's a nice chat to report back. Surprisingly, I fucking remember that one. I get asked a lot of questions, but I do really remember that, and I'm glad it worked out well. I don't remember what I said, but I do remember the situation. ADHD, if you want to calm down and focus, take a caffeine pill. So with me, I like caffeine because it does make me a bit calmer and weirdly a little bit drowsier and a bit more chill sometimes at really, really high doses. But leading up to that right dose of caffeine, I it just dials my Tourette's up 115%, which is bad. So like if I have a lack of sleep, sometimes I take more. If I have a bunch of caffeine, I take more. So if I have a lack of sleep and I need caffeine to stay conscious, I'm gonna offer to fist a lot of grandmas. You know what I mean? Bitch. Thanks, Crystal Bot. I appreciate that. That's really wholesome. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I have ADHD and high-functioning autism. I grew up on a farm and with family that doesn't believe in a lot of mental health diagnosis. I didn't find out about mine until I was 22. I feel like growing up in that environment, although misunderstood, forced me to overcome a lot of setbacks. Any thoughts? So I would be very, very careful about labeling it that way because the mechanisms of ADHD specifically mean that you will release norepinephrine and I think cortisol. There are two stress hormones basically that you release a lot of when you are having to suppress and you are having to um, push through the symptoms of ADHD because they're not being accommodated. And what your brain will do is when you feel very insecure or self deprecating, when you are pushing back your needs, when you are muddling through and it's really fucking hard, and you blame yourself a lot for this because you don't understand that this isn't voluntary, etc., etc., it releases a lot of these stress chemicals, but your brain can utilize those in place of the usual dopamine system to help you function. And so, what this means is that your brain gets caught in a cycle of self blame, self loathing, insecurity, rejection, sensitivity, and a lot of really, really negative thought patterns that are quite painful and stressful to endure. And your brain is addicted to that cycle because it's the only way it can function without ADHD meds and without the usual dopamine cycle to motivate and get things done, right? That's more handleable when you're younger. That cycle is, you can function like that for a while when you're younger. But as you get older, it damages your immune system and you end up with extra health issues. There is a clusterfuck of associated health issues with ADHD and autism, including Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, MCAS, I think asthma, dementia, and a bunch of other autoimmune disorders that come specifically from having a nervous system that is subjected to stress for a really long period of time. So, if you just push through it and let everyone gaslight you out of attending your needs and going at your own pace and finding your own way of managing things, right? If you just brute force it for long enough, you will permanently damage your physical health. And a lot of people learn this. A lot of people learn this the hard way, and there's no take backsies. You can't fix it after it's done, after that damage is done. Yeah, it's not good. So, whilst your management techniques might be working for you now, if they are born from being told to just doubt your condition and push through anyway, they might physically harm you. And there is literally zero harm in looking into how other people with ADHD manage their condition a bit more healthfully. There's no harm whatsoever. You don't have to emulate everything everyone else does, but the ones that are more nervous system friendly, may be easier to do than the shit that your family made you do, and may actually be very preserving for your physical body. Win-win, no downside. Exactly. So yeah, not good for your health. Please reconsider. And there's loads of reading material about management techniques for ADHD. I found a really helpful Reddit thread that was literally just like, people with ADHD, what was the most transformative habit that you found that allowed you to function normally? Because the thing is, like, we can't develop routines and shit like this. We don't have habits. So every time you brush your teeth, you literally have to put it on the list and you really have to try to remember and you really have to put in effort into doing it because you're not just going to go, oh, bedtime, time to brush my teeth every single time, right? So basic things like this are really hard for people with ADHD to do. Bitch. So when one person, their habit that they made was that they put their toothbrush in the shower and they put the bath cleaning supplies in the shower. And they are only allowed to watch their show if they shower. So in the evening, they shower, and because they're already in the shower and getting wet anyway, it doesn't give them any sensory issues to wash the bath if they need to. And they brush their teeth while they're watching their show in the shower whilst the conditioner is soaking in. And this combination actually makes them brush their teeth, actually makes them take a shower, actually makes them wash the bath. Whereas they struggle to do all three of those tasks separately, individually, for the longest time and couldn't keep up with them. So that was their like little thing that they decided to start doing. And the one that I picked up from other people with ADHD is I was dumping massive piles of stuff everywhere around my house and it looked messy as fuck. So I realized the high traffic zones where stuff tends to get dumped, like, you know, just when I get inside the door, I'll put a bunch of stuff on the stairs and go, I'll pick that up later and put it where it's meant to be. And then the stairs would just get covered in shit. So I have a basket on the stairs and I have a basket in the kitchen on the kitchen table because that's a dump zone. And every time the basket gets full, you just walk around and put it where it belongs, and that takes 5 minutes. And it doesn't ever build up and just become a pile that is just part of your environment for 5 years. That just gets higher and higher, so you procrastinate cleaning it up. Like, these sorts of management techniques are really, really fucking useful. And there are literally millions of people going through your exact struggles. So you may find some really life-changing hacks that allow you to function to the degree that other people do without suppressing, without shame, without pressure, without having huge amounts of exhausting levels of self-restraint. And I think that's really helpful. It's efficient. Mega Man, thank you so much. That's a really smart move, to be fair. Yeah, it's really helpful. I mean, if you're just a messy bugger, it's useful. You don't necessarily have to be ADHD for that one to be a useful one. That Forest says, as someone with Tourette's, I struggle a lot with imposter syndrome because of things surrounding the time tics first manifested, early teens. Although I have a diagnosis, don't know how, formal, not great therapist, I still feel like a fraud. Is there any way to get over this? Yes. But also, thank you so much, Mystery Man, for the super chat. But like, basically, I have had bouts of imposter syndrome my whole life with it. So here's my resume. Don't mean to trauma dump or nothing, but I was punished for my tics growing up really severely. I was starved, I was screamed at. So my family thought that my tics were just me attention seeking. And so they would get very, very angry with me and punish me every time I had a tic. It was involuntary. I didn't know why I was doing it. They didn't know why I was doing it, and I got in a lot of trouble for it. With my mom never punished me for anything. But my stepmother, my dad's partner, abused the hell out of me horrifically. It was awful, right? And so I genuinely did not know what was going on with me, but I knew that anytime anyone saw it, they would just think that I was attention seeking, and that was a really gross and disgusting, awful thing that earned violence and all sorts of nasty things. It got to the point where I broke my arm, and my stepmom shook my broken arm and said, "It's not broken, stop attention seeking!" Like, they wouldn't help me if I got hurt, they wouldn't help me if I cried, nothing. There was any expression of emotion, they would scream and treat me like I was just trying to manipulate them for attention. And it was horrible. And so when I first started going to the doctor, I kept doing this a lot. And I used to say things. And like, there's a lot of OCD that came with it too. And that made it very confusing. So I would like look at things with words on, like road signs. And I would suddenly stop and I couldn't move until I'd read the road sign. So like, if there was words on something, I couldn't move. I would just freeze and I would have to say the thing that was written down in order to be able to move again. And that was really weird. I also found myself having to do this every time I took a step, and that's kind of weird. Like, it looks like I'm just doing jazz down the fucking street. But like, things like that were like really weird and not really considered characteristics of Tourette syndrome. So I can understand why they were a bit confused. And I was a bit confused. But like, I went in and I was like, my arm does this sometimes and I don't know why. And sometimes I swear at people, but I don't mean it. And sometimes I just say random words, but I don't know what it is. And the doctor was like, do you hear things that aren't there? And I was like, no. Do you see things that aren't there? And I was like, no. Do you think you have magical powers? And I was like, no. And they're like, well, you're very sane. So you're probably just attention seeking and you'll grow out of it. Because obviously when I first started again, I think I went in when I was like 10 or 11 years old the first time to the doctor. And that's what he said. And then I told a therapist about it when I was like 14, 15, somewhere in that age range maybe. And the therapist got in a doctor who asked me the same questions and said, yeah, you're probably attention seeking and you'll grow out of it. So at that point, I was just terrified of having tics in front of people because I thought if anyone in the public sees me do these things, they're going to be really mad at me and scream at me like my parents did. And they're going to hate me because they're going to think I'm attention seeking, but I can't stop and I don't know what to do. So every time I had a tic, I was hideously embarrassed. And I thought everyone's going to look at me and everyone's going to think I'm attention seeking. And so I had a huge amount of insecurity and self-doubt about it. Huge. And then when I got beat up at school to the point where I was beat unconscious, broken rib, broken fingers, my fingers never healed right. Like you can see that gap when I close my, you see the gap here? They never healed right, right? Lots of consequences for my Tourette's. And when I was in my 20s, I went to the doctors and I was like, I can't get a job. No one's going to employ me. I can't leave the house. I'm always in danger. People think I'm hitting on them. People think that I'm being racist, homophobic, all these things. People get mad at me. I really need to know what the fuck this is because it happens when I'm home alone. So I don't think it's attention seeking. But I didn't think it was Tourette's. I learned about Tourette's by that point in my 20s. And I was like, yeah, but that wouldn't explain why I need to read things out off the sign on the road to be able to move. And these sorts of things, right? There were symptoms that didn't line up. I now know that they were just like OCD. And that OCD is really common to have when you have Tourette syndrome. They go together hand in hand. So like, but for me, like I'd seen depictions of Tourette syndrome and I was, that's not me. That it's not like that for me. So because I had a stereotype of what Tourette's was, I was like, I gaslit myself out of believing it was Tourette syndrome. And so they did loads of tests and then they never got back to me. And then, so 7 years pass and I'm still in this situation where everything is dangerous and hard and I can't explain myself, I can't get employed, nothing. And then I go into my doctor and I'm like, hey, so we started doing some tests and then we stopped. I kind of want to finish those tests. I want to know what's up with me. And they were like, oh, you have Tourette syndrome. We diagnosed you 7 years ago. I was like, well, you could have fucking told me. And from there, whenever I interacted with people, they were nice to me because I'd be like, bitch. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, oh, I have Tourette syndrome. And they'd be like, oh, that's hilarious. I love Tourette syndrome. That's so funny. I wish my kids had Tourette's. Ha ha ha. Sometimes I feel like I have Tourette's because I sweat all the time. I'm like, uh-huh. Okay, very nice. Well, at least you're not very mad at me. At least you're not egging my house or kicking me out of here, you know? So this is an improvement and my life started. And then I started streaming. And when I started streaming, people started doubting me again. And that was really fucking hard because I'd been doubted my whole life. People had been reading bad intentions into my tics my whole fucking life. So it was kind of heartbreaking and sad initially for the first few weeks when people were like, stop faking it! Because I felt like I was, 6 years old looking up at my stepmom who was like red in the face and angry and ruining my life every day. Because all these people were like, you're faking for attention. And I was like, oh God. But then I just kind of got over it. And the reason why I got over it was because at the end of the day, I didn't understand Tourette syndrome for most of my life. And I saw people with Tourette's and was like, that's not me. Because like I would sit there and go, I killed 52,000 men. Really calmly. And that was a tic for me. I used to say it all the fucking time. Right? And that doesn't look like just shouting fuck really loudly. Shit, arse. So like, even though I had swearing tics every now and again, because I had these calm words and these OCD behaviors and all these other things, I was like, I know there's something up with my brain, but I don't think it's that, because it doesn't look like that. And like when everyone starts accusing you of faking or lying, you will question yourself. It's really normal and natural. There are loads of rape victims who get told, no, it didn't happen to you. You're lying. I don't believe you. And they get gaslit and they're like, fuck, did I misinterpret the situation? Was it my fault? Am I lying? Am I stupid? Did I really like consent and I'm just being sensitive? Like people gaslight loads of people who are suffering for a multitude of reasons out of genuinely understanding themselves. It's a really, really common thing to happen. And it happens a lot to people with Tourette's. A lot. We're in this boat all the time. And a part of it is just being a disabled person, because even if you need a wheelchair, I can't tell you how many people who have a wheelchair. Everyone can see they're in a wheelchair, and people will doubt that they need it. People will question whether or not they're just using it to get parking spaces and get attention. People will call people in wheelchairs fucking attention seekers. So it's no surprise that we're getting it too, especially when our condition is less visibly a disability, like people don't really understand it as a disability. And also, especially because it's so misunderstood, because it's so stereotyped, because a lot of people don't understand how it works. So over time, like, yeah, it does make you question yourself, and it does, and you're like, wait, is it fake? Am I just fake? Have I just convinced myself I have Tourette's? But there are moments for me where huge things happened that were so upsetting and so inconvenient, and I would just stand there and go, well, yes, this is a disaster, but at least I can really see for myself. No, I am not faking. This is not a fake condition. There is no way I would ever do this on purpose. And I guess that means that I don't have to doubt myself anymore. You know, stupid shit like going to feed the rabbits rabbit food when you're stupidly tired at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're desperate to sleep, and you yeet it up all over the ceiling and it just rains everywhere. And now you have to clean it all up, and you're just like, fuck. But you can sit there and go, I'm gonna remember this anytime anyone makes me doubt myself. Anyone who tries to make me doubt my Tourette's, fuck it. I can think back to this moment and go, nope. Yeah, you know your truth. Exactly. And as well, a lot of us end up with joint damage, permanent pain, because we damage ourselves. You know, you'll end up with a tick where you keep hitting yourself in the chest, or, you know, you keep cricking your neck and you end up with joint issues and things and permanent pain. Like, these things are constant reminders, even if other people don't understand you, you know. You know. Sislak, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But the thing with the whole attention seeking and faking disabilities is that disability doesn't get you a bunch of privileges that are worth faking it for. Anyone who faked these kinds of things will get hard awakening very quickly because there isn't really any benefit worth all of the bullshit you have to endure. Nothing is safe when you have Tourette's, nothing, and everything is hard. And like, people stereotype you in a very, very bad way. It is kind of life ruining in some aspects, the way that people treat you because you have Tourette's. So faking it isn't as beneficial as people initially think it is. So it's not worth faking at all. Yeah, I don't see any benefits whatsoever. Yeah, people think it's a meal ticket to just becoming famous. It's not. Like, there are a lot of people with Tourette syndrome on TikTok, YouTube. Uh, you know, there's lots of them, lots and lots of them. You only ever see the tiny handful that ever got to be a success. You don't see the many, many thousands of them that have like 1 or 2 viewers for many, many years and never become successful. And there are a lot of them. There are a great deal of them. So more often than not, Tourette's is a hindrance to becoming a content creator rather than a help for a multitude of reasons. And one of them is that no matter what you do, everyone just asks you about your Tourette's over and over again. Everyone wants to send to your Tourette's over and over again. And there's no way to make that fresh content that's entertaining to the same group of people over and over again. So you will hemorrhage followers constantly because they just ask about your Tourette's and then leave. And once they've had all of their questions answered, they don't really care about the rest. And if you try to do anything else, people who followed you because they saw a tick of yours or whatever are going to be like, this isn't as interesting as the Tourette's. So you get shoehorned a lot. Live stream is hard because like a lot of people pop in and they ask like the same 6 questions about your condition over and over again. It's really, really hard to make a career out of that. I mean, it's a nice career if you can, because it's like taking the same math test every day and earning a good salary from just doing a test you know all the answers to every single day. So like, in a way, it's still kind of cool, but also in a way, really not very sustainable or easy. I feel like we all heard an exaggerated version of Tourette's as kids. It's nice to have people like you who show how it really is. Very enlightening. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for being curious about it too, because for every person who understands it a bit better, the safe the world becomes. Because when I was a little kid in the 90s and in the early thousands, I really suffered from a lot of misunderstandings. A lot of misunderstandings. It really fucked my life, and I got physically harmed, put in danger, horrible things happened to me all of the time. And I feel like now, so I kept shouting the N word. I had the N word tick for a while. It was kind of devastating. And I was on a bus, and there were 2 black people sat in front of me, And rather than turn around and get angry at me or have me kicked off, which had happened in my childhood, I could see over their shoulder one of them had just typed, "How does Tourette's work?" into their phone and was just reading about Tourette's in front of me. Like, and that's all that happened. Nothing else. And so, like, I feel like the world has become a better place and it's much safer for people like us now than it ever was. Because people are curious, they want to understand, they ask questions, and they can identify at a distance now, mostly. I mean, it's not as well understood in other countries. Tourette's happens in other countries, but it's just not as well understood. I don't know if they just don't have as many documentaries about it going around on TV or whatever. I have no idea what it is. But so when I get into a taxi, you often get foreigners in taxis that have never heard of the condition whatsoever and are very, very weird about it. And a lot of my weirdest interactions have been in taxis. So yeah, I'm just gonna throw that out there. I'm just really glad that people ever ask it all. That forest says, as someone with Tourette's, I struggle. Oh, I already did that one. Could you tick that off so I don't read it again? I got a terrible memory, mods. Thank you. That was back in the day before the science came in. Oh, what with the evil spirit stuff? No, like I had like a really uh at TwitchCon, someone literally said, "Yeah, I think it's evil spirits." Like people still think that to this day. That is not like a science thing. Tourette's has been known as a condition like for a very, very long time. I think the earliest reference to someone with Tourette's is like 1,000 years old. It wasn't called Tourette's then, but like they listed all of the symptoms. Since the 1800s? No. No, I'm pretty sure it's much further than that. Hang on, it might not be 1,000. Let me go look it up. Oh, my bad. 1400s. 15th century clergyman, a priest documented in 1487. The book describes an unnamed priest who suffered from sudden, repetitive physical actions and vocal outbursts. What is your skincare routine? Your skin looks really good. Thank you. I don't know. I use a face cloth, like a flannel face cloth, and some cleanser. Even if I don't wear makeup, I will, every time I have a shower, I use a little bit of cleanser that's good for my skin. I've researched what skin type I have, and I got a cleanser. And I use that in the shower. And then when I get out, I use a very basic moisturizer. And that's it. That's the whole routine. I also use sunblock before I leave the house. I know if I'm gonna leave the house, I will wear sunblock. But I feel like all of those things are incredibly basic and that most of it is just eating right, if I'm honest with you. Eating right and getting sleep. Do you think your diet improves your skin quality? Abso-fucking-lutely. The difference is night and day. A lot of people who think they have acne or like really rugged, rough skin actually have a mild intolerance to either dairy, chocolate, or caffeine. Like those are top inflammatory ones that people can have like an intolerance to and not know. And so like there are people who thought they had acne for years and years and years, and then they gave up dairy, and now their skin is really clear and beautiful. Like, so if you have skin troubles, you might want to try eliminating some of the common causes for skin troubles and see if that helps. Uh-uh. What do you do in your free time? I spend a lot of time with my animals, to be honest with you. I do a lot of animal-oriented bullshit. So I noticed that the caterpillars that had started eating all of the plants in my back garden and front garden, that the plant that they were eating was gonna die before they finished their cycle. So I collected them all up and I started like rationing them some food so that they would last without killing the plant they lived on. And I got loads and loads, millions of caterpillars that turned into like little pupas, and I was feeding them every day. And I ran out in my garden of the plant they need, so I had to start going further afield with my friends and chopping some and giving it to them twice a day. And now I have to look after them and protect them for a year because they don't hatch for a year. So I will be changing the moss that I've placed them in, and just spritzing them a tiny little bit in the corners without spritzing on them directly at all, to keep them just the right level of moist until they are born. These sorts of things. So I have a badger. He doesn't know he's mine, but I feed him and give him water every night. And I film him on my trip cam. And then I have the birds that I take care of, and my rabbits, and my giant African land snail who eats like bone and organic fruit and vegetables. And I have cockroaches. And yeah, so I do a lot of animal care. I get quite excited for it. I'm very fascinated with them all. And I would have more animals if I had more time, but I don't, because I do a lot of gaming competitions and tournaments, so I spend a lot of time gaming. And in between that, I just go and do fun stuff with my friends, like climbing and exploring rocks, like rock formations and caves and like um stuff like that. Do you have any videos showing off your animals? So, funnily enough, I have this thing called Throne, where people in chat can buy gifts for my animals and it gets sent to my house. And um I didn't know what to do as a thank you for that because I feel like that's just crazy generous. So I have on my Discord a little channel that is just the Throne channel where I show videos of my pets enjoying the gifts that people buy for them, which is pretty cool. So yeah, there's pictures on my Discord, but there's also videos of my bunnies. Since you missed it, what do you think of America having self-driving cars with no drivers? On the one hand, fuck yes! I've been hoping for this day my whole life because I knew that I could not drive. I have driving tics, and I'm like, I will do this. On the steering wheel, I will slam the brakes, I will slam the accelerator. There's a video, can you drive with Tourette's? I cannot drive with Tourette's. There are plenty of people who have Tourette's who can drive. Tourette's is a spectrum. Mine is too severe to drive. I will close my eyes really tightly, raise my arms as a tick, all these sorts of things. If I'm distracted, I tick. If I'm really focused, I don't tick. So I'm pretty sure if I drove enough, if I survived the first few drivings, I might be able to do it quite consistently without too much trouble. Like with makeup. I used to be really bad at makeup and I used to do a lot of this when I first started. But now that I am focused and experienced and I can really get into it, I tick a lot less when I do my makeup. And I know that driving would be like that for me too, eventually. However, it would just be about surviving that initial period and then hoping to fuck that I don't develop a new tick that just pops up once. Like I get distracted while driving by something and then, woo, I crash and burn everyone alive, you know? So, like, for me, it's just not worth it. Also, I would have to go to a doctor and get assessed by a doctor and get a note from them to take with me when I get a driving test to say, like, I can legally drive and my condition would not get in the way. I think anyone who tried to assess me would probably not agree with that statement. I don't think I'd be able to get that slip very easily. So for me, I cannot drive, and the level of fucking dependence, it takes away so much of your independence. Getting anything, doing anything is so fucking hard when travel is not accessible for you. So I used to have to get a lot of taxis, and they're not very affordable if you just have like a normal job. And not only is that, like, really limiting on how often you can go anywhere or do anything, like go and get shopping. Like, I could not get shopping unless I went by taxi. I'd have to pay, like, 20 to 30 quid in taxi fare on top of my food shop every time, and that's just not sustainable. I was spending more on the taxi than the food. Um, and then, like, people are really pervy and weird as well when you have Tourette's. Unfortunately, because some people think that Tourette's is when you speak your unconscious thoughts. So if you keep offering to fist people or saying "I'll fuck your dad" and things like this, people are like, "Oh, are you horny right now? Is that why you're having those kinds of tics? That's okay." And they start like hitting on you and stuff and being weird. Like, is this where you live? Do you live alone? All this sort of stuff. So fucking freaky. So yeah, not cool. Not a good experience. Would love self-driving cars. However, caveat. We are in the earliest stages of a lot of this technology, and there will be accidents and faults. So with that in mind, I think I would leave it for a little while before I became reliant on a self-driving car. Because I feel like there might be a few wrinkles to iron out there, and I don't want to go to my grave because of any of those wrinkles, you know. Exactly. Exactly. So it's like, yay, but I'll give it a few years before I give it a try. Hope that's understandable. Which is kind of mean because it's like someone else can die. Someone else can pay the price for that. Excellent analysis. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, for me, it would open up the world in as such a cool way. It really would. But being dependent on a robot would make me very independent in a lot of other ways. Also, like, I kind of feel like I trust a robot, even a hinky, easily hacked, kind of messed up robot, over a lot of the like 90-year-olds who are still allowed to drive for some reason, who aren't even tall enough to see over the dashboard. Um, and were probably around when the first car was bloody invented. True. Yep. Um, I don't mean to be ageist. Some elderly people are fantastic drivers. But some people have aged out of it and have not accepted that fact, and there is nothing stopping them, and there should be. I like sandwiches. Good for you. Yeah, they're pretty good. Very true. Absolute facts. I was gonna say, about the whole driving thing. It's really weird. We stereotype women as being worse drivers. I swear every sexist thing is just projection because insurance companies have all the statistics on how often people crash, and men crash their cars so much more often than women that women have cheaper car insurance because they're statistically less likely to get into an accident. So, like, all of the data to the point where our capitalist world will physically bank on it. That if they give a car to a man and a woman, that the man is probably going to crash first. So it's so weird. Also, we call women sluts, but I feel like men are easier. Not all men, obviously. But if we got 100 men and 100 women in a room and offered them all casual sex, I feel like more of the 100 of the men would accept than the 100 of the women, generally speaking. This is also true. I don't even think there's anything wrong with being a slut, to be honest with you. I think it's fine if people want to enjoy each other's bodies. I don't even know why we're shaming anybody about it, but it seems weird to be shaming the women about it specifically. Not all men, but I would accept. See what I mean? Exactly. I feel like men are generally more slutty, and that's fine. You can be slutty. If it's consensual, I'm happy for you, babes. But like, at the same time, seems weird to shame the women about it when that they're doing it a lot less. Yeah, I see people in chat who are like, if anything, I want to be more slutty than society will allow. I had a slut phase. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have a slut phase. I know a lot of people who've had a slut phase at some point in their life. You know? You talked about bullying in a straightforward way. Do you think there's a difference between bullying out of arrogance to feel stronger and make a friend stronger, or is just joking but gets misunderstood because of a generational or cultural gap? Or at the end of the day, is there no difference because you can't change how people think about you? Okay, I feel like bullying is a developmental disorder characterized by a general fear of being a low status person and using leverage and vulnerability to gain that status, right? And you're meant to grow out of it. So people who bully in their childhood are supposed to grow out of it. And some people still do it in their adulthood because they are developmentally behind. Yeah. So I feel like being misunderstood is just a misconception. Being misunderstood when you make a joke is not bullying. If you meant no harm and had no expectation that anybody would be offended and didn't even know that it could be taken in a bad way, I think that's just being misunderstood. Being a bully is just like a, I don't know, pathological disorder. Something wrong with you, developmental delay. And a lot of it comes from fear, abject terror. Supposed to, based on what? Evolution? So like, supposed to in the sense that usually, by the age of 4 or 5, you're supposed to be using the bathroom by yourself. Like, it would be weird, aged 15 or 55, to be asking your mother to wipe your ass for you. Usually, you're supposed to have learned to do that by yourself by then. I mean, disabilities and illnesses aside, like, if you have the mental capacity to figure out how to take care of your own ass, usually you do by a certain age. And by a certain age, you do realize that bullying is kind of stupid. It is a socially suicidal strategy because you are making loads of enemies in places you have to keep returning to. Usually, like, a bully will figure out that this is a really stupid strategy to avoid being vulnerable because a bullied kid will turn around at some point and just knock them the fuck out. Like, press 1 if you either were the kid or knew the kid that got bullied so badly that one day they just beat the shit out of their bully, and that bully shut the fuck up and did not do it again. And it was like a huge turning point. Like, yeah. So, like, this is why it's so important to learn this in childhood. Because if you're bullying when you are in your workplace, or in your relationships, or in your family, these are places you have to keep returning to over and over again. Everyone's dependent on that environment to survive. So everyone's returning over and over. So then you develop enemies who don't want you to have your job, that don't want you to live in that house, who don't want you to sleep soundly and safely anymore. That is incredibly fucking dangerous. So the fuck around and find out of being a bully later in life is ridiculously bad. Like, to have that developmental delay where you didn't get knocked the fuck out as a child when you were pulling this shit, so now you think you can get away with it when you're 43? Like, those people's lives collapse quite consistently. The more people you get away with bullying, the worse it fucks you. Rightfully so, of course. There's the moral shit. There's the fuck bullies, the twats, of course. But if from a purely selfish perspective, human beings are a social animal because we are terribly evolved. Okay? We are bad at giving birth. We are bad at surviving alone. We are bad at securing food. We are bad at surviving weather. We are bad at everything. So bad. And we have had to artificially augment ourselves with weapons and clothing and shoes and glasses and airplanes and shit because we aren't fast, because we aren't capable. And the reason we've been so successful is because we collaborate. Okay. We've been circle jerking this incredibly hard mode, this incredibly hard game mode with no extra lives. That's how we got through it. And so if you are a bully and an asshole and you make the people around you hate you, that is a socially suicidal strategy. It is the most opposing strategy to your personal benefit, survival, and longevity, ability to pass on your genes. Who's gonna fuck a bully? If you spit at someone and call them a cunt, they're not gonna have your kids, usually. And so it's a terrible mating strategy, terrible friendship strategy. It's just a terrible strategy. It's dumb. Low IQ. Bad idea. And we all know this pretty fast. We either be the bully, get taken down a peg, learn from it, or we watch a bully get taken down a peg, or we were bullied, so we already hate them way too much to become them, whatever the fuck it is. But you get that character arc, usually, when you're like fucking 6. Very basic social awareness, very basic lesson to be learning. Remedial class, lowest tier lesson you could possibly learn. Yeah, exactly. So when you come across a bully when you're 45 and you're working in a store and the manager's being a piece of shit, or the person that you work with is pulling some bullshit, well, they made an enemy of you. Anyone who feels safe making enemies is stupid. Like, we British know this. We're chronically polite. Chronically polite. Disgustingly polite. And we don't kick up a fuss. Yeah. And I think this is part of it, because we go to school, we understand making enemies is bad. You need each other. Are there any studies or findings as to why Tourette's outbursts are connected to sexual or profane verbiage? And are all the people with Tourette's amazing whistles? No, not all the people with Tourette's have good whistling skills. There are loads that can't even whistle. However, most tics are not sexual or profane. It's just we also know sexual and profane words. I feel it's a hyperfixation on it, but it's not the most common words that you say. Most people with coprolalia and you know, the spoken word form of Tourette's will say things like sheep and cats, and you know, will go or will twitch or sniff or just waggle their arms a bit. And they'll do a load of gestures, like thousands of these completely non-sexual, non-profane things throughout the entire day. But the tics where they go, I'll fuck your dad, or whatever, people will really remember and fixate on and go, why is it always swearing? Because that's what they've noticed, but it's not actually your experience of the condition. And so, like, when they do studies on Tourette syndrome, they have noted that in our brains, you have a mechanism that blocks you from indulging your rage or your, like, that restrains obnoxious or socially unacceptable behavior. Like, your brain will fire towards that part of the region of your brain, like angry, bad, big swear words, whatever. And then there's another part of your brain that goes, oh, no, that's socially unacceptable and we shouldn't indulge that impulse. And apparently with people with Tourette's, that secondary part, that restraint part, is weaker and is supposed to just, like, not be as existent. But I don't think that really accounts for most of people's Tourette's experience. So I do have a theory that as we understand the research a little bit better, we're just going to understand that our brains fire differently, but that we do have restraint and we do have, like, better capacity to manage our emotions and things, and that these tics aren't just specifically swearing. They include swearing. And I think that's just more noticeable. But it can be any word or gesture you know. It's not necessarily the lewd stuff every time. And so I do get asked a lot, why is it always swear words? And I'm just like, it's not. It's not always swear words. Most of my tics are not swear words. And the thing is, most people really fixate on when I do swear, right? When there was a guy who came up to me really friendly and nice at TwitchCon, and he was like, "Oh, are you Sweet Anita?" And he was streaming, and I didn't realize at first. I was like, "Oh, hi." And I had a tick, and I've been saying it a lot to just everything. I've been saying it to cupboards. I've been saying it to my rabbits. I've been saying it to the floor. I've been saying it to the sky. It's not driven by people or what they look like, but I went, "Nice tits!" And it did just so happen to be a guy who was a little bit thicker. And people immediately latched onto that and thought that I was literally reacting to him and was saying that he specifically had nice tits. And people thought that it was my thoughts, and they were like, "Why is it always sexual? Why is it always inappropriate?" All these sorts of things. And they took that one clip, even though while I was walking around at that convention, I'd shouted like, "Ever get that feeling of deja vu?" and things like that many times. Way more times than I'd said nice tits. But that's the clip that circulated. So everyone's idea of me, that girl with Tourette's, is that she's going to swear at you. She's going to say something humiliating. She's going to offer to fist you. And there's a good chance that I might just pat you on the head, call you a good boy, and call it a good, and then call it a day. I do wonder if a lot of people who've heard of me get really disappointed when they meet me in person, because a lot of stuff that people fixate and clip and circulate about me is just like the most extreme or awkwardly timed tics, even though most of my tics aren't awkwardly timed at all. And it causes so many fucking problems, I gotta tell you. Because, there are so many people who are like, I've got a cousin with Tourette's, and his tics are not perfectly timed like yours. You have perfectly timed situational Tourette's, and that doesn't exist, and you're faking it, and I'm really angry at you. And I'll get that all the fucking time. And, they will sit in my chat and seethe and actively watch me, blink, close my eyes, wink, shout random things that have nothing to do with anyone, aren't perfectly timed. I'll interrupt myself shouting bitch, and it won't be funny. And it won't be perfectly timed, and they'll still be like, "You do perfectly timed. I've seen the clips. You're faking it. That's not how it works." And it's like, if you tick for thousands of times a day, some of them are going to be at awkward times. Some of them are going to be at hilarious times, whether you mean it to or not. That's just how it is. It's just a statistical roll of the dice whether or not it will happen when you specifically would find it most hilarious or not. Hey, Jacinta. Thank you so much. I appreciate the 90 months. It is RNG, exactly. Is holding a tick physically uncomfortable and painful? Yeah, I've done a video about it on YouTube, but it's quite painful. It feels like an expanding hot pressure in my chest, and it really hurts and is not possible to do for a long time. So because it's mentally taxing and you do have to really focus to hold a tick, physical sensation aside, right? Just knowing to hold it and trying to catch it and stop it, it's kind of like being asked to juggle knives all the time. When you go to the shop, when you're doing a test, when you're trying to drive, while you're cooking dinner, you have to juggle at the same time. At some point, you're going to drop the knife. And so, because it's such an engaging and difficult thing to attempt to do, you're not going to be able to hold it in for very long. But the longer you hold it in, the more it hurts and the more uncomfortable it feels. And the bigger the outburst when you finally do let it out. So it's really not, it's like, what's that word for when it's not anticlimactic? What's that word when it's more useless than it is helpful? When it's contradictory. Trying to hold a tick is contradictory, because if you try to hold it, it gets worse. It doesn't help. Yeah, counterproductive works too. Do you ever get tempted to say something and then blame it on a tick? No. Because if you've pissed me off enough that I want to swear at you, I want you to know I mean it. I'm not a fucking coward. Anyone who knows me knows I'm direct with problems. I'll bring it up with you. Right? But the next thing is, so I shout things like I'm a pedo. So I think faking it and leaving that question sometimes as whether I meant something or not would be really fucking dangerous for me. Because I shout the F slur. I'm homophobic and racist with my Tourette's, unfortunately. So, like, and that's not voluntary, and I really wish it didn't happen. But if I'm sneaking in a few insults that I secretly mean, teehee, and people catch on to that and think, oh, fuck, did you mean that? Then everything I say is that, oh, fuck, did you mean that? So the cost of being a coward would actually be worse than just straight up being offensive. And, like, I know this. So your tics are more likely to become offensive things, unfortunately, or things you shouldn't do in the moment, even if they're not offensive. So me saying just now, "That's not a tic," is not offensive. But there are definitely situations where if I said something really bad, like the N-word, and then went, "That's not a tic," that is a very, very bad situation, right? Exactly. Not necessarily a swear word, but still very, very bad, right? Um, so I think my Tourette's knows that when you are and aren't taken seriously is a matter of survival for people with Tourette's. Also, if you're forced to swear at people all day long, there's no thrill to swearing at people. I'm not gonna do it for fun because it's not fun when you do it all day, every day, especially when you don't mean it. That's like going to someone who works at the biscuit factory. There's a guy who has to taste at the quality of the biscuits to make sure that they're fine. That's his job. What a crazy good job. You just taste biscuits, you lucky fuck, right? And that's like going up to him and going, "Do you ever just eat one because you're hungry and not because you're testing it?" And it's like, why the fuck would he do that? What? It's a bourbon biscuit. Like, it's 7p. Why would you steal a 7 pence biscuit and be like, "Oh, I know I've had 150 today, but I'm going to have just one more just to be naughty, maha!" Like, at that point, you wouldn't even want to look at another fucking bourbon biscuit for the rest of the day. You're like, "No, that's enough." And it kind of gets like that when you're constantly being offensive and a constant social disaster all the time. But, like, yeah, I think it would be very, very cowardly. I think that's, like, my main aversion. Like, when I have a problem with my friends, I'm not like, "Oh, I can't stop it!" Like, I will be like, "Hey, can we have a chat?" That ain't cool. Like, I will approach it like a normal, developed human being and resolve stuff. I have problem resolving stuff. If I'm swearing at you, you abused a kitten or something, okay? If you've got me raising my voice and swearing at you, you did something very, very fucking wrong, okay? It takes a lot to make me lose my temper. So if I've lost my temper with you, yeah, I want you to know. I fucking mean it. I want you to know you are a cunt. No, I'm not. It's not my Tourette's. You are genuinely a terrible person and you're in trouble with me now. You should know. Why would I hide that? Yeah, if you fucked up that badly, you should know. What words did you use when you swore when you were a child? So the swear words generally in the UK language haven't really changed very much. So they were the same. I was like a little toddler, had this like little round ball with different shapes in it, like a star shape and a square shape and a circle shape. And I used to pick up the corresponding bricks and just smack them really hard against it and go, "Fuck, fuck, fuck, fuck." And like my grandparents would stare at me like, you gonna check that? You gonna do something about that?" And my mom would be like, "No, she's just being a kid." Then I started saying, "God never loved you. You're not a fish." And people are like, "Ah, 7-year-olds, they say some weird shit." No one really questioned it. I think it was when I got to like 13 that people are like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Because at that age, people expect you to stop being weird for some reason. I don't know why, because I think 13-year-olds are legitimately weird, but that's when people start to notice that you're being weird and expect more of you, I suppose. So, like, the tics were always bad, but like, The expectations were the issue. Now all of a sudden I'm going into rooms where people expect me to be quiet. Like in school, and I couldn't. I got in a lot of trouble. Because I'd just start whistling or saying stuff over the teacher. And they're like, what the fuck? And I'd swear as well, you're not supposed to do that. And kids would come up to me and be like, are you on drugs? And I'd be like, yeah, I do drugs. And they'd be like, ah, I knew it. And I'd be like, oh, fuck. Everyone now thinks I do drugs. And it's like, now you're sitting and eating alone because you're the druggie. You're the 11-year-old druggie now. I would have fucked with you so heavy. Oh my god. Yeah, you'd think you would. I was violent. I got aggressive. So I got left alone. Well, at least you didn't do Fent at 11. Yeah, wait until I was 36 for that one. Thankfully. Are you still aggressive? I mean, luckily, there's no need anymore, you know? Usually. Did they let you keep the bits? What, are you keeping souvenirs? Are you, like, knocking people's teeth out and making a necklace? What does that even mean? I mean, I wasn't taking a hacksaw to anyone at 11. I don't know why I clarified at 11 then. That's very incriminating. It's like an oddly incriminating way to say that. You wouldn't know I've been speaking on live stream for like 8 years. You'd think I'd be better at wording shit by now. How'd you get over limerence, lol? Therapy. There ain't no sentence on the world that's gonna get you over your limerence. That shit hits hard. You go to therapy. Limerence is like a deep, deep problem. That's like going into a fucking stream and going, hey, how do I cure my depression? It's like, that isn't, there isn't a TED talk on that one. Hey, can you cure my mommy issues? You do need a therapist. Do you have to take medicines? I mean, I just got surgery. Technically, yes, but I ain't been taking them anymore. They said you can stop when you feel like it, and I kind of felt like it a week ago. So no, not really. How do you get such a good understanding of English? I often find myself researching the words you say on Google because I don't know what it means. Um, I couldn't tell you. I mean, there wasn't just some guy who came in my window every evening and was just like, today we're gonna learn English, okay, Anita? And we're gonna go, A is for apple, and B is for bungle, and C is for constitutional rights. Like, but I don't know. I just picked up the words as I went. I too also Google when I don't know what a word means. I just guess I remember what I've looked up. To be fair though, as a kid, I did read the entire dictionary for fun sometimes. Multiple times. That's hardcore. I was a very suspiciously smart 9-year-old. that it to the point where people thought there was something wrong with me. Actually, 2 adults in a trench coat. I mean, how tall did you think I was at 9? I am 5'2" now, okay? I was teeny as a kid. Hey, Cody, thank you so much. Are you a biologist? No, but I would have been if I could. When I was a little kid, I was obsessed with science, and I was very interested in biology. Um, and, chemical warfare as a kid as well. There were lots of viruses I wanted to make and changes to the human body. I wanted to get men pregnant. I also wanted to make a disease based on um, what's the name of the disease? There's a cat disease. What's that called again? Toxoplasmosis. Yeah, I wanted to manipulate toxoplasmosis to have slightly different neurological effects. When I was a little kid. This was under the age of 10. I had this whole plan for world peace, and it involved viruses. So, yeah, I think it's probably a good thing that I had to drop out of school because of the Tourette's and did not get any A levels and stuff, because then I didn't go into the sciences like I intended. I went into the arts because you can just get into the arts with nothing but a portfolio of drawings. Like, I can draw good, can I come play? And they're like, yes. Anita missed the Nobel Peace Award thingy. Yeah, but it's not like I'm gonna pressure the head of FIFA to do anything about that. I'm not petty or anything. I'm just gonna enjoy my life being a live streamer instead. What do you think you'd do if it weren't for Twitch? So the only person insane enough to employ me was me. So what I did was I found a bunch of free stuff and I sold it online. And then I saved that money and I used it to buy supplies for a store. And so I ran an online store and I would walk in my pajamas to my office building that I was renting and I would package orders, play Overwatch, package some more orders till about 4 p.m., post it all at the post office, and head home. And I was laughing. It was a great job. I loved it. I could work in my own time. Sometimes I'd do it at like 3 a.m. and I would just post it early. I'd just post it all for the 9 a.m. post and then go home. I could be a night owl. I could function at any hour I want. I didn't have to, no one was my boss. I was my boss. It was great. It was a massive office building with other offices. So people did pass in the hallways and they could hear me swearing and shouting and just making random noises. And they never knew who I was and they never spoke to me and they never saw me. So I do wonder what they thought I did for a job, because sometimes they'd hear things like, yeah, bitch, you like that? And stuff like that. So who knows what they thought I did. But anyway, their theory's none of my business, I guess. And loved the job. And then I started doing this and it paid better. So I just transitioned to full-time this. But I still have all of my stuff that I used to sell. So I could just go back to that one day if I wanted. And also, there are loads of backup jobs that someone in my position could do. Like, dead people don't care if you swear at them. Dead people don't care about anything. I could be a mortician, you know? And if people really wanted to have like a really exciting experience, I could become an officiary of weddings and stuff. Or I could be like one of those people who gives eulogies at funerals. But to be honest with you, like, stuff where Tourette's doesn't matter, could do animal work and animal care. Musician. There's like a lot of jobs you could do. But there are loads of people with Tourette syndrome who don't have it very severely, who just get away with being like a pilot, surgeon, doctor, all sorts of cool stuff. Like people with Tourette's can do stuff. Just mine is it has messed me up. Mine is like bad. Mine is very, very troublesome. Fetch! Do you still sell? No, because it took a lot of time and energy to do the work, and I wasn't getting anywhere near as like if I do 4 hours of streaming, I make several times what I would make if I did like 10 hours of work at my shop. So I packed it up because essentially you guys made it. You were so generous. You made it so I was essentially paying to go to work because I could have stayed home and played games or just sat and yammered at you and made several times as much. What did you sell? Craft supplies mainly. Mostly. You could work from home and be hired as a programmer or something. I could, but I have a tech curse. Software and hardware both malfunction around me quite badly. So that would not go well for me. Absolutely not. Would you lie a lot as a child? No, not really. Is it treats o'clock already? Damn, that came fast. How long have we been hanging out? That's crazy. 2 hours? That's insane. Okay. Well, is the bunny cam working? It is. Let's look at the bunnies. Okay, I'll get in the sheets. Hang on. Baby. I love tits. I love tits. Okay, I'm gonna try and get under the desk now. Maybe under the desk cam will work. Why are you going off camera? Go closer. Why are you not wanting to go closer? What's wrong with you? Why are you resisting me? It's right there. What do you want? Camera. You going? He is really cute, isn't he? I love him so much. Likes a good pat on the head. Just a gentle pat on the head. He also likes being stroked right here in between the ears. He likes it when I wobble him. It doesn't usually take them this long to eat things, they're deliberately savoring it. But this is the tamest bunny I have. He didn't like it when I touched him when I first got him. For the first couple of years, he did not like me. Now, like, no, you can't have enough. No, you had two. You can count. You had two. No, you had two. But he's like the tamest bunny I've got because he will sit and rest his chin on my lap and he will just cuddle me. He loves to be loved now. This has been a slow development. He'll groom me. He'll lick me. He's just nice to me now. He sits there and licks my knee. There we go. Bart and Q. He's licking my knee. He's very violent towards other bunnies, but he loves me. Yeah, don't do. What's surgery in the UK now? Yeah, I had adhesions that were gluing my organs together, and they were putting me in a lot of pain. And at first they thought it was endometriosis, so they cut me open, had a look inside, discovered that it's not endometriosis at all. But that they found the things gluing my organs together, and they snipped it, and they said, "We think we got it, and it shouldn't hurt you anymore, and it shouldn't come back because it's not endometriosis. Endometriosis tends to come back, but what you had is just organ scarring." Which makes sense, because I do heal weirdly. I have like keloid scars. Do you know what those are? I've got one on my arm. It's the most obvious keloid scar I've got. Can you see that? So that scar there is from my BCG when I was a kid. You know, that like vaccination or whatever the fuck it was at school. And it became like this bar. Like there was a solid bar in my arm. And it really hurt, like all the scar tissue. And then I'd have like weird feverish dreams every few years, and then it would become red and inflamed again as if it was fresh, over and over. And even to this day, that's over 20 years ago now that scar took place, and it was just a tiny little pinprick, like 5 little pinpricks barely reaching the surface of my skin, that caused this, which grew into this. Is that a common thing for women or something? No, so having keloid scars, having atypical scarring is actually, I think it's more common in like Afro-Caribbean people. I think like there's something to do with like having black genetics that makes you more prone to it, which would make sense. Last time I Googled it, it said something about that. And that would make a lot of sense because, you know, of my heritage. Also EDS. Yeah, EDS causes atypical scarring too, so. But it hurts whenever I do push-ups. Like, it'll feel like it's on fire and as if I'd just been, like, sliced open. Like, if I wasn't looking at it, at this scar, and I did push-ups, I would think that I had been injured quite badly. Like, it just is on fire sometimes. It's really odd. And it's like, if I exercise, it really hurts. It's like a deep pain. It goes really deep into my arm. Sometimes changes in temperature, like getting too cold or getting too hot, will make it really fucking hurt. It just burns out of nowhere. Demonic possession. Oh, you think that's where the demons got in? You think that's how I got Tourette's? Just wriggled in through the holes in my BCG scar. Oh, thank you, Peroxide. I appreciate that. I do want to post more, but life keeps getting in the way. I had this crazy stalker and I had to deal with that, and then the police. And then like loads of other crazy life events happened. My parents died. Just I needed surgery because I've been really fucking ill. Like for years and years, I've been trying to get back into YouTube, but it's like not really worth it because I have to pay more money than I make. So I'm literally paying to post my content there because I pay an editor to edit them together, but the videos don't make more than the editor charges because YouTube's demonetization thing is based on like a bot that doesn't understand what Tourette's is. So unfortunately, I get demonetized really easily. And even when I do get through to a person to talk about this, they're very vague and they do lots of really upsetting things. Like I had a video taken down for nudity and sexual stuff, and it timestamps exactly where in the video, so I cut it out immediately. It was a tick, and I cut out the tick because you can do that and repost it and through the system. And they reassessed it and said no, it still has nudity in it, and it highlighted where Pete was on the screen when my rabbit was on the screen. I was like, what the fuck? So I asked them about it and we got through to a real person and they were just like, they didn't care. So YouTube is not very disability friendly and there isn't really a place for me there. And that's sad because like I have a lot of YouTube video ideas, but the budget it would take, I'd be paying to do my job. It would not be sustainable, unfortunately. Other people get paid to make YouTube videos, I do not. And the funny thing is, I will get edited and I will get slapped down and have my videos taken down for things when I've said way worse in Sidemen videos. And the Sidemen videos stay up. The Sidemen aren't getting any kind of consequences for having me on. But my videos, which are tamer and have fewer swear words and everything and are way more edited, will still get demonetized or taken down. So YouTube does not give a fuck. YouTube is not accommodating enough to really be able to meaningfully put content up without it costing me a fuck ton. It's so annoying. Could you not pay based on revenue of videos? I wouldn't really want to do that because that would be underpaying someone for their time. I don't think that's fair. Just because I'm not getting paid properly doesn't mean that I'm going to ask someone else to get underpaid. Because, like, that would be hypocritical of me because I've always said that we should raise the minimum wage. And people are like, what about small businesses? That would kill small businesses. And I'm like, good. If you can't afford people's labor, you're not entitled to it. People shouldn't have to really skimp and scrounge and like really suffer and not be able to afford food just because you want a business. Either you can afford the labor or you can't. Replaced by AI and it's already failing. Yeah. There is an issue with YouTube at the moment where their bot system will flag stuff that you might need to, that will demonetize it, that they're scared will scare like investors and like advertisers off, right? So they're like, no, you got to take that out. So there's a system where it flags it and it shows you where on the timestamp, and you can just cut it out within the YouTube app sort of thing. And the video stays up just without that segment, right? So they give you a chance after you've posted to fix any issues that flagged. But the thing is, you can post unlisted for like days before it goes live for the bot to check it over so that you know that it's not going to get demonetized before you make it public. And that's what a lot of people do. They post it private, the bot scans it, then and that's a way to get around it. So you don't get any nasty surprises and get demonetized. But that doesn't work for me because I will post it unlisted for days. And then the minute it goes live, it'll get taken down. And then on top of that, The bot will flag it, and I will click the button to request a human looks at it, and a human will look at it and not understand what Tourette's is, and just still ban you. So there isn't really a lot of nuance. There's no way to reappeal after a certain amount, and yeah, it just fucks you. It just fucks you. There are people who get 20,000 views and they make so much money off their video, and I will get like 8 million views and get like less than 100 quid. It's ridiculous. YouTube shooting themselves in the foot too because you make good videos that people like watching. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I would make even more entertaining videos if I could finance off of that. Like, if I could financially justify it, there are a lot of very cool videos that I would produce. But I just don't because I know that I'm going to get punished and that there's no way to make sure that I won't. Because, yeah, the system should be you list it unlisted, unpublic, so that the bot can scan it and tell you if there's anything wrong with it. And if it's still monetized after that scan, you can post it. And that should work for everyone else, but it doesn't work for me. They wait until after it's posted to tell me there's something wrong with it. YouTube stinks. I feel like it's especially sad because awareness is a matter of survival for people like me. With Tourette syndrome, you're in a life-threatening situation if you accidentally smack someone, or if you accidentally shout a slur. Like, if you're at a club or a pub, people will physically fucking harm you over the things that you experience with Tourette syndrome. And so when people know what Tourette's is, you get to have a life. You get to go to the shop, you get to go to school, you get to have an education, you get to have a job. Like, it's life changing to be understood. So we rely on content creators. We rely on things like documentaries and stuff. Like, that is life-saving to us. It's really important media. And it's so fucking hard to post on YouTube and make money from that as a content creator. So if you don't do it full time, if you do a side job, it's really, really hard to make videos and be a content creator and have a side job. It's really, really fucking hard. And then on top of that, a lot of people with really severe Tourette's can't get jobs anyway. So it would have been cool if we could rely on the revenue, but no accommodations are being made for us at all. Can Tourette's people slap someone unintentionally? Yes. So I had a friend and he put his hand out for a tissue and I spat in his hand. I have slapped people, choked people, spanked people. I have a spanking tick. It's pretty bad. I have willy whopped people. I need my ex in the balls during sex, unintentionally. He was not into it. He took it like a champ, was not into it. Definitely killed the mood. There are physical aspects to Tourette syndrome that are very unfortunate. Choked? Yeah, but it wasn't like a it wasn't like a it was just kind of like a blah, like just very, very brief, like a pop. They just went and that was it. Like, it was a 3-second choke. It was a tiny little fleeting choke, you know? What is willy whopped? Is it a dick beating? Kind of. It's like a little backhand. It's like a whoosh with the backhand. Just a whoosh. But unfortunately, my backhand is really hard because my Tourette's has forced me to do these movements over and over and over and over again. It's kind of like monk training. You know when they make you like hit the wall over and over again, hit the tree over and over and over and over. Well, if you spank over and over and over again, it starts to feel like a much bigger, much more muscular person did the spanking than little old me. Okay, when I spank you, you really fucking feel it. Okay. Yeah, you might be able to taste it a little at this rate. It's really hard. So when I do a willy whop, it's not just a light little love tap, it's full on, like, you will be rolling. You will be questioning your existence. I'm glad you like it, Johnny. Thanks for being here. I love you. I love you. I love you, you slut. If you make a sound effect, I'm sure it's less painful. I'll try that next time. Which one do you think I should go for? Do you think I should go for or uh-huh? Wah-huh? What do you reckon would dampen the blow? Are you saying your muscles are conditioned for spanking? I guess. I'm missing a trick there. I'm sure there's some sort of career I could go for, I could apply this talent to. I just haven't figured out what it is yet. Maybe the military? Can you get a driver's license? Not me, but people with Tourette's usually can, but mine is too severe. Is your Tourette's considered severe or not severe compared to others? I mean, I don't really compare myself to others when it comes to Tourette syndrome, but I'd say I'm probably more on the extreme scale because I have coprolalia. There are lots of different types of tics. There's like echolalia, coprolalia, coprographia. There's lots of different types. Coprolalia is the type where you say stuff, and only 10% of people with Tourette syndrome have the coprolalia. So, like, a lot of people with Tourette syndrome will just like go, and that'll be like their main tic. And like, if you see someone do that on the street, you're gonna think they have a cold, not a neurological condition, right? There are some things that are slightly less recognizable, a lot less offensive, and you know, that's the usual type of Tourette syndrome. Most Tourette's is like people just like roll their eyes occasionally or shrug every now and again, right? Usually only 10% of us have the verbal kind of tic. But I also have the coprographia and the coprolalia and the echolalia. I repeat things back at people. I echo sounds that I've heard and gestures and movements and things like this. But I also write tics as well. But only handwriting. I don't really type tic. But I do have very bad dyslexia, so sometimes I will really jumble a sentence up and people will be like, is that a tic? What are you doing? But chances are, if you can't understand what I wrote to you, like what I typed to you, then that was probably dyslexia. But if I write you a note that says kill yourself, that was the Tourette's. Strawman me, bro. Thank you so much. I appreciate the membership, sweetheart. Oh my god, I had no idea. You're huge. Yeah, it surprises me how many people took an interest in me. So I have like 1.5 million subs on YouTube. I don't know how many it is on Twitch. It's like 1 point something. How many? Can someone have a look? How many followers have I got on Twitch? 1.8. So I've got 1.8 million followers on Twitch, and last time I checked, 2.3 million followers on TikTok. But I'll double check because I like to be actual and factual and stuff. Hang on. Wait, no, it's 2.4 million. It's gone up a little. And I have a few 100K on like Facebook and like 700K on Instagram. Maybe something around that. You add that together, it's a lot of people, and I feel like I'm forgetting a couple of platforms. But there's a lot of people who followed me in a various amount of places for some reason. Equilux, thank you. I appreciate it. There we go. 1.8 million and one. 2K followers on Blue Sky, which is kind of crazy when you think, I think I've like posted one photo on Blue Sky and that's it. That's the entirety of my Blue Sky. Yeah, go ahead and run that dono taunt.
Hello Anita, I'm glad you're
Oh,
okay after
sure.
your surgery.
Thank you. I'm especially okay now, Corin. Thank you so much. That's incredibly fucking generous. Hell yeah. Well, you made my day. Absolutely made my day. You were worth staying up for too, because I thought I'd be too sleepy to be streaming at this hour. I've been sleeping a daytime schedule. Gross. Like I'm normally a night owl and I usually like am most active around 3 a.m. And I usually stream from like 9 o'clock till like midnight or 1 a.m. And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sleeping at normal. I'm seeing daylight, which is especially annoying because it's summer and the daylight is horrible. It's the sky is on fire. There's burning ball of pain up there, and I'm seeing it every day. Yeah. My friends laugh at me for being such a gamer because I step outside and I'm like, ugh. Can we turn it down? They're like, turn what down? The fucking sun? Like, Crims, why did you have to get so weird? No, I was enjoying your comments before, but now I don't know, you ruined it. I was like, oh, I hope we see you again. Not anymore, buddy. Are you saluting him? What is that emote? Oh 07? Really? I feel like you're paying him way too much respect. I'm pretty sure he was just wanking. And it's weird when people just can't pay attention to something really innocuous, like a fully clothed woman just hanging out and talking and without breaking out into a wank. Like, what are you doing? Is it possible for Tourette's for adults to get Tourette's? I've been having tic-like movements and I've been trying to find out why with my doctor. Yeah, you can get Tourette's as an adult. So a head injury, trauma, emotional or physical, can trigger Tourette's. Also, being on a certain medication for a long time can trigger Tourette's. Also, if you have ADHD, not ADHD, if you have autism, you can have tics without having Tourette's. Also, if you have copper poisoning, you can have movements and gestures as if you have tics, but you don't. That's just the copper poisoning. There are a lot of things that can cause tics, and not all of them are Tourette's. But Tourette's can hit you at any age. Some people get Tourette's as a child, and then it goes away as a teen, and they never have it again. Some people will never have Tourette's their whole life, and then aged 50 will suddenly start developing tics, and then have it for the rest of their life. Or for like a year or two. Like, it's really random. Equilux says, how do you strengthen your mind enough to step into the next chapter of your life? Personally, I feel like I can already see the future I want for myself, but it feels like there's a locked door between who I am now and who I know I'm capable of becoming. That sounds like a therapy question because that sounds a bit self-sabotagey. It's like if you know you can do something, but something's getting in the way, that sounds a bit self-sabotagey. And there will be an origin to why transitions like this are so hard for you, but you might not be able to identify why it's happening by yourself. But it's cool that you're able to spot it, bitch, because a lot of the time, a lot of people have no idea what's wrong with them and do not acknowledge it, and it just keeps fucking them over and over again. Kind of the premise behind the Backrooms. If you haven't seen that movie. I bet wearing wrist weights while having Tourette's would make you super strong. Yeah, I mean, just going about your day with wrist weights would probably make you quite strong too. But I do wonder if there would be a benefit for me to do that, because to be honest with you, if I spanked people any harder, I'm gonna break a few tailbones. I'm gonna get sued. Maybe I should be nerfed, honestly. I'm 38 and suffer with agoraphobia. Can't leave the house without my dad. How do I proceed with life without being a total loser? I had agoraphobia for like 4 years, didn't leave the house, terrified of everything. I had a lot of bad experiences with people beating the shit out of me or like attacking me or like completely screwing me over because of my Tourette's. So I had a lot of good reasons to be afraid to leave the house, to be quite honest with you. And it took a long time to get over it. I think for me, the driving force behind me starting to work up to leaving the house was that I was stagnating. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any future. And I was getting very bored and alone, and I was going mad. Social isolation will drive you crazy. People who are in prison can be put in isolation, which is a room with no windows and no social interactions, and everything's the same all day, every day, as a punishment. And when people have that punishment and they have to be in that room alone for weeks, it can do brain damage, it can cause heart damage, and people who've been through it live shorter lives and their organs don't hold up anymore. So, agoraphobia can have really severe impacts on you depending on how much it isolates you. So, it's definitely worth working on. And for me, one of the things that I started doing was I would once a day just leave the house as much as possible. So for me, that looked like working up to opening the front door. Couldn't step outside of it, but opening the front door and just looking outside the front door. Just stood there at the threshold, just looking. And I did that whenever I could. And it was really hard. Like, I was so scared of leaving the house that I would find excuses and procrastinate. Like, I would check all of the lights weren't on, and then I would go, "Ooh, maybe I left the stove on or whatever." And I would just check loads of things around the house obsessively, procrastinating having to open the front door. But sometimes I would open it and I would stare at the outside and it'd be fucking terrifying, but I would just do that for as long as I could manage. And I worked it up from like a few minutes to like 5 minutes to like a bit longer, a bit longer. And then I put my foot outside the door. And that was scary. And it fucked with me. And I was like, ugh. And then eventually, after a few months, I could get to the front gate all the way 5 paces in front of my house, which was huge. And then I started in the middle of the night when no one was around, like between the hours of like 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. I would walk to the end of my street and back, and it would freak me the fuck out. I'd be, "Ah!" And you know when like you go into the basement and it's really dark and scary and you run all the way back out as a kid because it's frightening and you can really feel the darkness behind you? It felt like that. And then I started walking to the graveyard because nobody hung out in the graveyard at night. So I'd just walk all the way to the graveyard and wander around and watch the sunrise. And then I'd have to walk home during the day because it would be morning. And so then I started, you know, not walking to the shops when they were open, but like at maybe 4 a.m., walking to the shop and walking home to prove that I could go to that place and back. And then eventually I went in the shop one day and that was fucking terrifying and I had a panic attack. Uh, and I just worked it up, worked it up, worked it up. And my goal was to go to university. And I hadn't really gotten as far as I would have liked to have gotten by the time I had to start uni. Like the day of starting came and I was not ready. And I was in a room with 40 young boys who were all staring at me. And I was paranoid at anyway. I was like, why are you all staring at me? Yeah. And I was like the only girl. I was like little Smurfette. It was like the worst case scenario. Really hostile environment to be starting on a journey like this, and came home and I had a panic attack and I cried and I was like, fuck, I can't do this, but I still made myself go the next day because being alone was really agonizing and it was really doing me some damage. It was getting to the point where like I would sit on the sofa and look outside, and if I saw a person, I would feel like I'd socialized. Like if I just saw someone walking on the street, even if they didn't look in the window, even if they never saw me, like my dose of humans and socialization was occasionally daring to have the curtains open and seeing a person walk by. So, with that in mind, I know what it's like to be that bad. My mom was not very understanding of the situation, bless her, because most of my relationship with my mom was her writing me a list and her just going to bed or just locking herself in her room. And I would wake up, find a list, do the list of chores or whatever. And that would be the most interaction I had with her. So there were times where I'd have like 3 months where I wouldn't even use my voice, like to speak to another human being for any reason. So I had really bad agoraphobia. It was very life ruining. And what really pushed me was like if I had lived like that for the rest of my life, I would have killed myself. Like it was depressing, it was a dead end. I had no joy in life. It was driving me mad. It was an awful experience. I didn't have any internet. I didn't really have any TV. Like we didn't have a TV license. So um yeah, I didn't have a lot to do day in, day out, and I didn't have school because I'd been kicked out because of the Tourette's. So, yeah, my agoraphobia was life-threatening, and I was like, "It's either get over this or die, so I'm gonna give it a try because, got nothing to lose." And so I did the agoraphobia exposure therapy, drip, 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 and then really bad extreme example. And I threw myself at it because I was like, I just don't want to have no future. So I suffered to have a future. And it wasn't like a linear, like, ooh, getting better, better, better. It was like this. Like, I'd been going to uni for a year, and one day I had a panic attack in public because I got too scared while I was out in town, and I ended up stuck in a phone booth, and I couldn't leave the phone booth because I just couldn't bring myself to step outside of it. So I was just in there for the entire day, for many, many hours, and the sun set, and all the shops closed, and everyone went home. And then I was able to open the door and go home. And like some people really wanted to use the phone booth. So like people were banging on the door at me and stuff, which was making my panic attack so much worse. Um so yeah, I went through a lot of things like that along my way. It wasn't just like an up and up, it just kept consistently getting better. Like when you go through mental troubles like this, you're gonna have good days and bad days. It's gonna be a zigzag on your way to success. So don't take the bad days as everything's pointless and I can't get better. Like, no, there will be ups as well. Just keep trying. The fact that there were phone booths in the 2010s makes this story more interesting to me. I mean, I feel like this would have been happening in it does that count as the 2010s? I thought the 2010s were like 2010, 11, 12, 15, 16. but I'm pretty sure that it would have happened in like 2006, 2007, 2008. Just an instance of people thinking you're younger than you are. Yeah, I guess I'm what's the word? Like, you know, there's androgynous when you're like your gender is ambiguous? What is it when your like age is ambiguous? Because like some people are like 17 going on 40. Like they could be either, you're not entirely sure which one. I feel like a lot of Americans are like that. Like you look at high schoolers and they look like middle-aged. Like they look 42, but he moisturizes. I love you, I love you, I love you. You slut. If you could go back and have a conversation with your 22-year-old self, knowing everything you know now, what would you tell yourself? Ignore all men. Just don't think about dating. Don't bother with men. Work on yourself. Okay? If you ever have to explain yourself, over explain yourself to someone, you are begging. Okay? There is no need to beg. There is no need to waste time. There are no good men to pick right now in your vicinity. You don't have a lot of good men around you. So just work on yourself because if you do dating now, you have very low experience, you're not going to be able to pick right, but also you're going to end up working on them more than you are yourself, and that's a big mistake. I feel like the thing that I did was I ended up working on my partner's life more than I ended up working on me and raising myself. I ended up raising a grown ass man, and that was a waste of time. And like all throughout the relationship, I felt like I was making him a good boyfriend to his future girlfriend because I knew at some point it was so unforgivably bad that I was just like, you are learning and improving, but so slowly you're gonna destroy everything with me. And by the time you figure out how to be a decent person, you're gonna have to get with someone else because there's just no way that I'm ever gonna be able to see you the same anymore. And that's exactly what happened. And it's just like, as soon as I started focusing on myself, I had a business, I had friends, I had a happy life, I was so much more confident. Like, my biggest regret is men. Like, I just wish that I had just stayed single my whole life. And like, to be honest with you, like a lot of elderly women who make it to 100, if you Google any woman who's made it to 100, they all consistently say, don't get a husband, stay single. That's their secret. They're like, "What's your secret to your younger life?" And people think it's gonna be eating right or not drinking or not smoking or whatever. Every single one of them. Go and try it. Go Google it. This 122-year-old, what's her secret? She will say in that article, "Don't marry. Don't get with men." And so I was like, yeah, stress ages you. So I just feel like, yeah, none of my relationships in my 20s were like worth it. And I wish I'd just skipped that and just worked on myself in my 20s. I don't feel like I was developed enough to share my life with anyone yet. And I think I needed to go to therapy because I had a rough childhood. And I need to figure my life out before I started sharing that life with others because then I could invite people who are healthy and I could see what healthy people look like. I grew up alone. I was so isolated and I was very abandoned and neglected. So, yeah, I was not able to character judge people properly. Yeah, I just wish I'd stayed single in my 20s. If no kids pop before menopause, you'll regret it. Well, I kind of have met quite a lot of older women who've done the menopause and are really fine with not having kids. And I also have met women who regret kids too. But on top of that, I've met women who really are happy with their children. I kind of feel like if you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s and you're still not sure if you want kids, you shouldn't have kids. Because being unsure about them means you shouldn't have one. You need to be 100% sure because you will need to sacrifice a lot to have a child. So people who are sure, it's worth it. People who like look forward to having kids, they don't mind those sacrifices. But if you were on the fence and you did it anyway, those sacrifices are going to seem huge and that resentment's going to fall on the child. So I feel like it's better because we'd have a lot more mentally healthy people in this world if we didn't pressure people who are unsure to have kids. Because hesitant parents are usually bad parents. You've seen old people that are lonely. Are they happy? I kind of feel like elderly loneliness has nothing to do with whether or not you had kids, though. Because there are plenty of people who've had kids who and their kids never call them, and they're sat in an old folks' home and they haven't spoken to any of their family in months or years. Like, you can't guarantee that you'll be surrounded by people who like you just because you had kids. Like, that is a friendship issue. Like, you need to be good at making friends and you need to be a social person in your adult life. That social skills are how you don't be lonely as an elderly person. That has nothing to do with who you're related to. Based in true, so true. Exactly. So, like, people who are just trying to avoid social issues and isolation by having kids, it's much easier to do that as a man because all you've got to do is come. But, like, having someone tear their way out of you and, like, there are people who have really permanent issues from pregnancy. So it's a huge gamble to do all of that to yourself and your body just to avoid loneliness when you're an adult. That is not a dead cert. That's a huge initial investment and a high risk whether or not you'll actually get any returns. Um, so like if I was scared and I'm not really scared of doing things alone when I'm older. I'm good at being solitary, just as good at, I'm happy with the people I hang out with. I'm very social, but like I'm fine with time to myself. It's not like a big punishment or a terrifying thing to me. And so like, but if I was, I would just work on my social skills. I wouldn't make a person personally. I don't want kids. Yeah, I don't think you can just queef someone out of your vajayjay and then obligate them to socialize with you when you're old and wrinkly. That's not how it works. Yeah, like if I wanted friends and people to care about me when I'm old, I'm gonna join a few chat groups and, like I'll hang out on Discord and play games with people if computer games still exist when I'm like 80. I'm not gonna just like pull someone out of my vagina and hope they want to chat with me and play a board game or two in 50 years. What the fuck? Bad strategy. But not everyone's meant for having kids, and I definitely I'm one of those people who's just not designed to have kids. And I'm a very responsible person for thinking that way. I think it's really cool of me, personally. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I think it's amazing that I realized at a very young age I don't want kids.
Stay pure, fam.
Thank you, Severin. So if I'm not fine with being lonely, then I should work on my social skills to stop being lonely while I'm lonely. Yeah, I kind of feel like for me, the way that I learned to make friends was I started having conversations with people in Overwatch. Overwatch was my like gateway to social skills because it was a good practice run. Because when you hop in, you only have to talk to these people for 15 minutes. So if you don't click, you never have to see them again, and it gives you a lot of room to socially bungle it and be awkward and fuck up and just be a bit, like, socially inept, because if you didn't figure it out and get it right that time, you have a million redos, because you're gonna be thrown in with a bunch of strangers in 5 minutes. So I developed a lot of social skills and conversation skills that way. That was my way. I can't even imagine Anita being socially inept. Hey! See, Chili? Look, that means I've come a fair fucking way. Thank you. Are you social on the internet or real life? I both. Very social in both. How long did it take? I feel like my whole life. Um, I feel like I got to the point where I could confidently make new friends pretty easy by the time I was like 26. And I think I really started that journey uh when I went to university. So 16. Socializing is exhausting after a work day. It's fun being useless after the workday. I kind of feel like I don't find socializing exhausting. I used to when I was younger, but I think I was masking a bit, like, non-neurotypical stuff that I was hiding, like the OCD and everything, and that can make it very exhausting. But I feel like it's your mentality and expectations plus the people you surround yourself with, because people aren't meant to feel draining. Something is very wrong if you are feeling drained by social interactions. So either your mentality is fucking you over or you're just hanging out with very draining people. And some people are draining. And it's hard to know what to do about them. Yes, some people are. Yeah, like someone will blast into the Discord and be like, "Hi, I am having a day and I am feeding my cat right now and the grains are hitting the floor and now I have to clean them up and I'm going to go to work in a little while and I read this book and I played this game and blah blah blah," and they'll dominate the conversation but not say anything very interesting. And everyone's just like very uninterested and it will be like really really annoying and draining to listen to it. It's like it's sapping energy. Some people just are vampires of energy and you're just like, ugh. Yeah, exactly. And that's not your fault. Like, everyone's in that boat with you, having to deal with this person. But then there's other things like if you are hyperfixated on yourself and coming across a certain way, and you're having to hide lots of things about yourself and overthink everything, and then you're stressing about the conversation after you've had it, and you go home and you're worried that you said the stupid thing, or you didn't say it right, or you did something wrong. That means, bitch, that you ended up that you ended up um exhausting yourself because you socialized. And both things exist. Both problems exist. But I genuinely do feel like there is a way to socialize and feel energized and really happy that you did. I love you. I love you, you slut. I love you. I love you. I love you, you slut. people have got stuck correlating being in a relationship with being successful and happy. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think people put a lot more importance on it than there actually is. There are loads of different routes to happiness. There's not just one. You have to tailor your life to you, not society's expectations, okay? Society has expected a bunch of fucked up stuff from us that is deeply unnatural for a very, very long time. Like high heels. Fuck that. So just remember that whatever makes you content and happy to have existed is the point of you existing. And if relationships don't do that for you, then don't do them. You don't owe anyone a relationship. Do women have a sixth sense? Haven't talked to my ex in 3 months, and I met someone new, and we clicked and started talking a lot. And now my ex turns up out of the blue and tells me she's been thinking about me. How is that always the case? It's so weird because, like, I don't believe in magic or the occult or anything, and maybe there'll be a scientific explanation for this. But like, I feel like I could sense when my exes had moved on. Like, I feel like I could sense that they just got laid. Like, I was sitting there eating yogurt, and it'd be, like, 8 months later out of the blue on a random Wednesday, I'm like, "Huh, for some reason, I just feel like that guy's having sex right now." And then I carry on eating my yogurt. It's so weird, and I thought that was just some weird OCD thought of mine or something, some weird thing that wasn't true, and I just ignored it. And then I came across a TikTok years ago of, like, a woman saying that feeling when you know that your partner's moving on. And there was so many comments from other women going, "Yeah, I knew it. I could just tell." And then the very next day, he's posting her on Instagram and things like this. There were so many of those, and I was like, "How is it that we just know?" I wonder if it's just advanced cognitive reasoning, and we just have a feeling we know how long it would take for him to move on. And maybe we're just guessing right, unconsciously, without even tracking it or thinking about it. Because I wasn't even thinking about the guy. It really is a sixth sense. I feel like there's something going on there. I just don't know what it is. I feel like I've experienced it a couple of times. Do you think guys have that sense too? Not in my experience, but maybe. I've mainly only seen women experience it, like, and talk about it, but maybe they do. And it bubbles up as that gut feeling. Interesting. Okay, so guys are just not talking about it, but they're getting it too. Have you ever thought about doing ASMR? I did a stream of ASMR just for a joke. I mean, for me, because of my Tourette's, there's always going to be jump scares. I don't think it's going to be a very relaxing video. Nobody's going to be falling asleep listening to me do ASMR, but we did one for fun. Yeah. What advice can you give on grief? It's supposed to hurt. There's no point trying to get over it. There's no point asking how to get over it. It's just supposed to hurt for a while. It's normal to love someone and then miss them. But if you are gonna sit and drink and cry on their grave for the next 10 years, or never date again, or like never get over it into to some degree, like I don't mean you as like, it's just your dad, get over it. Like I mean like Your loved ones, the people who genuinely loved and connected with you, do not want to be the reason that you've ruined your life. Like, honoring their memory also means being able to someday be glad that you met them and be glad that you knew them because they were only here for a short time, like all of us, and you were one of the the very, very few people who ever got to know they existed, you know? And that's a rare privilege, and that's beautiful. And yeah, I feel like some people, they drink, they grieve, they kind of kamikaze their life out of grief. And it's like, you are dishonoring these people who loved you because you are making them the reason that you suffer, and they never would have wanted that. Most sane people that are like actually terrible to lose, people worth grieving, would never be like, I hope everyone misses me when I die. I hope they all cry. I hope they all like spiral into a drunken haze and cry every night and never get over me. Like, nobody thinks like that. When they think about their family and their loved ones continuing after they're gone, they don't imagine their lives kamikazing. Okay? So it's natural. Take care of yourself if you're grieving because your brain processes losing someone in with the same region as it processes pain, physical pain. So I think it's legit fine to take a day or two off work. I think it's okay to just cuddle up in a blanket, watch a few movies, just take care of yourself for a little bit. That's normal and okay. I don't think I want to advise you to get over your grief. I think you should just face it and let it take its course, you know? Because I don't think you can rush it. What if you're getting ghosted and cheated on after being love bombed? Then they showed you I wouldn't call that anything other than a near miss. Like, at least you figured out that they were a cheater and that they were a terrible person before it became serious, you know? You just like, "Whoa, never mind," and you swerve around them and you go find someone worth paying attention to. Yay! Hit him up with a Google review. So women made an app called Tea in order to do that because they were helping protect each other from abusive men, and loads of men got really angry and hacked it and doxed a bunch of women from the Tea app and came and tried to hunt them down and harass them physically, and they tried to shut down the whole website. Basically, they got absolutely infuriated. So there did used to be a way to review your encounters with people. Do you believe in ghosts and the afterlife, Ania? No, I've spoken about that a lot. I'm not a very spiritual person and I don't believe in ghosts. Um, I'm open to if you can provide me with scientific proof, that'd be cool. And I would change my view. But at present, I don't think that ghosts exist the way that people make them out that they are. And like maybe I have an emotional bias because as a content creator it would be especially terrifying if ghosts existed. Because like a tiny teeny percentage of all your viewers, like maybe 1 in 1,000, is gonna be a nut job. Because, there are just crazy people out there, right? And could you imagine if like Britney Spears, if Ghost existed, Britney Spears has never gone to the bathroom alone. Britney Spears has never gotten changed alone. No famous person has ever done anything alone. Made love to their partner. Farted when they thought no one could hear it. They've never done any of that alone. Because ghosts of all of their fans would come and spy on them. Would come and watch them. Yeah, like imagine you have a stalker and they died. They're just gonna be in the room wherever you go, whatever you do for the rest of your life. But also, if I died, I would not just stand where I died. I would not just stand over my grave in a place where nobody could see me and I couldn't exactly talk to anyone. I would not do that. Like, I can't even take a poop without scrolling on my phone. So why would I just sit and stare at my grave for 100 years? The idea of a graveyard being haunted sounds so fucking stupid to me. No one would do that. No one would just sit and stare at a stone for hundreds of years. Who came up with that? But then there's the things that debunk it for me, like Houdini gave his wife a code name and said, if you go to psychics to try and make contact with me, here's the code name. If none of the psychics tell you that code name, they're bullshitting. And she went to loads of different psychics, and all of them claimed to be in contact, and all of them passed on messages from him. And she'd be, okay, what's the code name? And not a single one of those psychics could tell her the code name. And then the fact that a lot of sightings of ghosts are transparent, but that didn't start until after photography, because you could use double exposure to fake pictures of ghosts. So then people started claiming they saw ghosts like in those pictures. And that wouldn't have happened if ghosts were always real. Because before the invention of photography, all accounts of ghosts were solid beings, were solid people. So I do think that like some of the ghost folklore is just wishful thinking because a lot of people are terrified of death. But actually, it's more horrifying to be a ghost than it is to just disappear forever. If you really think about it. Having a body that can never eat again, never sleep again, that just floats around, to anything that you've left unfinished becomes the reason that you just have to stare at a world that you can't interact with for hundreds of years, maybe eternity. That is horrifying. That is actually horrifying. To try and live in your home, but people keep moving in and changing everything and moving around in your home, and you can't do anything about it because you can't interact with them. You just have to watch. That is horrifying. Try to spend 5 minutes with nothing to do. People get chronically bored after like 5 to 10 minutes of doing nothing. And if you can't do anything except when you really, really try, you can move a fork across the table or slam a door, like that is going to be absolutely horrible very, very fast. That would get horrifying for me day one. So like the idea of ghosts and the afterlife is not very not very comforting to me at all. Also, I just have a lot of sneaking suspicions, like, why don't you ever see dinosaur ghosts then, bitch? If you see ghosts all the time, like, mediums would have predicted that dinosaurs had feathers. Because people claim to see ghosts of animals. Yeah, the kind of T-Rex is comical now that you realize that they never had those tiny little arms and they actually just had, like, they were flightless birds that had wings. And so, like, the idea that they were these bald gray creatures that were running around like, "Nyeh, nyeh," is kind of hilarious. But the mediums would have known that that was wrong if ghosts were real. If ghosts exist, it would be really crowded. Yes, that's another thing. Like, how would you differentiate? Like, mediums would just see a mist of overlapping ghosts because every inch of this planet has had such an inordinate amount of death. Also, we'd just be using mediums to find mass graves of like ancient battlefields and stuff, but you can't. So for now, I remain skeptical. I've had spooky experiences that people might attribute to ghosts, but I'm not going to because I kind of feel like it's very, very unlikely that ghosts are real. I feel like that kind of belief in spirits is a bias. Like we have a bias because people are scared of death and disappearing forever, and that's incomprehensible to a lot of people. And people have a bias where they miss people that they love who've passed away, so they really want to see them again. And so there is a lot of reasons why we would want to believe that ghosts are real, which makes it even more spurious. It would mean that I need even more evidence that it is the case. You believe in aliens? I think it's very myopic to believe that we're the only sentient life that has ever occurred in the entire vastness of the universe. It's just a matter of whether or not it's existed at the same time as us and within a reasonable distance that we could ever communicate or travel to each other, right? Also, we don't know what the apex of all technological capacity is. So we don't know what an advanced society would be capable of doing. At present, with our current understanding of physics, we don't really see how other species could be visiting us from other planets at this stage. But it might be possible. I do think that the American government genuinely believes that it has alien artifacts. Like, after all of the disclosure acts and all of the things that have been disclosed so far, I genuinely do think that the American military thinks it's got alien craft. I think that there are multiple governments who genuinely have been trading what they believe is extraterrestrial craft at this point. After what I've seen and heard, I'm like, yeah, I think they genuinely think that's what they have. Whether it is actually what they have or not is another question, but I think that there are companies and governments that think they have some. Interesting. I wonder why they think those UAP materials are alien in nature. Yeah, I would like an in-depth explanation of why, to be honest with you. I think that if I hadn't believed that there's a peaceful afterlife for all the people and animals who suffered terribly during their life, I would go insane. I don't know. I feel like I don't know how to properly articulate the fact that I just kind of feel like suffering is a necessary aspect of existence, and that I don't think that we can deserve anything, and that to deserve something, you would have to believe that the universe is allocating experiences according to who you are as a person, and that would mean that how you behave could dictate what you were rewarded with, as if like you're a dog who's getting treats from the universe for being a good boy. And I just don't see the universe that way. So because I don't think that you can deserve things, I don't really think of this idea that, there must be rewards for people who have suffered. As someone who has suffered immensely throughout my whole life, through a lot of physical and emotional pain, for a lot of really ridiculous reasons that are incredibly unjust, I have to say, I don't think why me, and I genuinely don't think, well, now I deserve heaven, or now I deserve a peaceful afterlife. I think if I burned to death, or like had some sort of really awful death, I wouldn't be thinking in those moments, I better get a reward for this. Otherwise, it would have been a waste of time and suffering. And I think part of it is because, like, learning that the brain organoids that we've been making, the little tiny human brains in petri dishes that we allot tasks to, Matrix style, like we've actually created the Matrix. We have brains in jars. It's crazy, right? Um, And we found that those brains do not survive very long if they do not have the capacity to suffer. You can link them up and put them in a situation where they genuinely believe that they're in a virtual reality and stuff like that, which is really insane. And we convince them that they're butterflies between tasking them with things to do. And with those, we've tried to make them pilot robots and stuff, which is crazy. And with all of that in mind, knowing that they need to suffer in order to have an operational brain, that they have to have a full spectrum of life experiences from good to bad in order for their brain to continue to exist and not atrophy and just die, means to me that suffering is a cornerstone of existence. It's not some terrible, unjust thing that we should avoid happening at all costs. And like whenever it does happen, we have to compensate for it. No, it's just part of the recipe of existence. In order to be and to think and to have and to know, you have to know the difference between good and bad. You have to know the difference between fun and boring. Like that full spectrum of positive to negative has to exist in your brain. And to me, that just means that suffering is an aspect of the privilege of being conscious. To know that something is bad is an honor. To know that the stove is hot and it burns is an honor, you know? Because that is part of the spectrum of experience. Most of the universe never gets to experience anything. It's drifting rock and gas, and you got to know the spectrum, good to bad. And so I don't really need to take comfort or solace in what happens to anyone after they die. Because for me, suffering is a part of the recipe of existence. It's not one of these things that I feel terrible has happened. And that's really weird to say as a vegan. You'd think as a vegan, I'd be vegan because I'm like, oh, I just don't want animals to suffer. And it's true, I don't want animals to suffer. But I know that suffering in the natural ecosystem is a normal and important thing. Suffering is supposed to happen. That's not why I don't eat them. Mwah! Also, if we're going to speculate on what kind of happens after death, like, why not go with the egg theory, where we're all just one soul, and every time it just gets reincarnated, it gets thrown into another body? Like, you could believe in reincarnation, but then how do you know that there's more than one soul on the planet? Because it could all just be the same one, just bouncing between every single life experience that's ever happened. What if it's all a simulation? Okay, so the most compelling argument I've heard that it's not a simulation is that if everything was a simulation and it perfectly replicated the universe in every single way, right? And it was so convincing you couldn't tell you were in it, then surely that would mean it would be possible within that universe to create a universe perfectly that emulated everything about the universe in every single way, which means inside that universe, you would have a simulation that could be made of the entire universe, right? And so you wouldn't even know whether you were a simulation or a simulation of a simulation of a simulation of a simulation of a simulation. You know, you would have no idea. But at present, we can't simulate jack shit. I mean, we're going to have a bit of a conundrum when we can because we're no longer going to have that piece of evidence. But you and I, we were born at exactly the right time to not have to question this so much because we can't simulate it all. So that adds to like, maybe it's real. Maybe it's not a simulation. You never know. That's true. I know. But then at some point, maybe we will get technologically advanced enough to simulate reality perfectly. And then those people of that generation are going to be like, fuck, how do we know we're not in this ourselves? But the other part is maybe that's why the speed of light is there. Maybe that's just as fast as it can buffer in and render in extra universe. Like if you try to travel through space, maybe that's just as fast as it simulates. Maybe that's why maybe that's why we're stuck with the speed of light. So which pill are you picking, Anita? Okay, so we're doing the Matrix thing right now, bitch. So my choices are I can look beyond this reality, but I know that the reality I'd be looking at is worse than this one, right? I haven't been told what it is, but it's worse. So my quality of life will decline exponentially, and I will be involved in a mass conspiracy to break out of this virtual world and break everyone else out of this virtual world, which will be hard, life-threatening, and nasty, right? Or I can swallow the pill where I just go back to my life and I continue with the simulation. And I don't even know I've had this conversation. It's wiped. And I just get to be blissfully unaware that nothing is real. Which one am I picking? And it's like, without any further details, it's kind of hard to make that choice, if I'm honest with you. Because factors I would want to know before I make this decision are things like, why are we being kept in a simulation specifically? Because if it's like just like the Matrix, we are being harvested for energy or consciousness or whatever, right? And the world is dead. Every human is enslaved. There are no plants, no trees. The ecosystems are gone. The world you would be re-inheriting is fucked beyond all recovery. And most people would not want to be brought back into the world. Most people would not want a life like that. Then the ethics become, should I force people who do not want to come out of the Matrix out of the Matrix? Should I force them against their will to live in a fucked world and potentially be mass murdered by robots? Because I know I can deal with the hardship. I've been homeless. I've had to eat terrible food and multi-food to survive. I've, had to do terrifying things and go up against horrifying people. And I feel like I've got a lot of the makings of somebody who could fight in a revolution against robots. But would I want to? And could I ethically make that decision for everybody else? Especially when we fucked the planet anyway, and we were going to create that huge desert with or without the robots. We were going to fuck the planet and destroy each other and create a mass extinction either way. Also, if we can't define consciousness, how could we know if we ever made a robot conscious? Yet, how could we ever know we're conscious ourselves? I feel like that's still up for debate. A lot of people do not know whether or not we have free will, and whether free will is even a prerequisite of being conscious. If the soul concept exists, where do you think souls come from? I don't believe in a soul. I don't think I have a soul. At this present time, I have not seen conclusive evidence of a soul. So I wouldn't know. But the brilliant thing about about ghosts is people just make it up as they go along. They just guess stuff and are like, I would like to believe. Like it's like a fairy tale where you make up all the rules that are the most comforting. So like if I played along, I would probably be like, I think that if souls were real, that it would probably be the mapping of the way that your electrical impulses in your brain, the structure that your brain makes with synapses that looks like a tree inside your head of electricity, continues to throb in exactly the same pattern after you die. And so the same electrical energy that, was just energy, just chemicals and shit before it was made into you, now has a conscious structure to it. But like that wouldn't make sense to me. And why would that happen? That's like the electricity in my PC staying PC shaped and being able to compute after the PC is destroyed just because it had electricity in it. People like to conflate the energy of like bioelectricity with soul. And I don't know I understand the connection. And like another part of it is there a lost and found pile? Because people lose their limbs and people lose their minds and people get dementia and people get pork worms, which are little tiny maggots that eat away at your brain. And they eat like little maggoty sized bits out of your brain, and your brain looks like cheese. Like many people have it and they don't know they have it. They ate pork, they got the parasite, they live with it their whole lives. They have no idea that they would have been several times smarter. Yeah. So, like, what happens when you die? Is there a lost and found bucket where you just scoop up the wiggly little bits of eaten brain and you tip it back in your head? Because if that's the case, if you reunite with all the bits you lost, what if they changed your personality? Like, what if do you revert to the person you were before you lost those bits of brain? So do you lose all of the identity you built from like the age 20 to 50 because you got porkworm? So you revert to your 20-year-old self? Or like, do you reunite with your amputated arm? So for me, like, I'm open to the idea that there is a soul, but there's a lot of things that just don't make sense. Is the soul the same as consciousness? I don't know that it is, because we haven't isolated what consciousness is. So how could we say the soul is something undefined? Is the soul the same? If you haven't defined either, how could you compare either? Since you don't believe you have a soul, would you sell your soul to the devil? Maybe. Probably not, but maybe, to be honest with you. I mean, on the one hand, the devil is someone who strongly believes in justice and punishes people for doing terrible things, which says to me that he cares about morality. So maybe going and hanging out with him after I die wouldn't be a bad thing necessarily. Also, if there's a devil, that means there's a God. And in the Bible, God killed more people than the devil. So if I have to hang out with one of them after I die, I'm going for the one with the lowest kill count. But at the same time, there is a huge gamble there because if it's true that he's a bad person, then that would be really bad and I might be tortured forever. So I guess the first thing I'd go is, if I gave you my soul, what would you do with it? Because if it's like, I'd just place it in this cool little place I live in with all my mates and we just chill there. Okay. But if he's like, no, I will torture you as if you did lots of terrible things, even though you didn't do lots of terrible things. I'm like, no, never mind. I would like to keep it, thank you. Yeah, would rather not be tortured for an eternity. Exactly. Exactly. So that's my answer. If it involves my soul being tortured for all eternity, that's not a good trade. You don't live very long as a human. You definitely don't live for an eternity. I feel like that would be a very short-sighted trade. Fancy and armors. It might be hard for the camera, I'm afraid, but thank you for the offer. But if God exists, then vaguely what the Bible said is true somewhat. So presumably God equals good and devil equals bad. Well, if the Bible had some truth in it, that is very interesting because it would leave you more lost contextually than you would have without it. So if the Bible is true, there are more gods than just God. Like, the Bible says there are multiple gods, and God is a jealous God, and if you worship any of the others, he'll be angry and punish you. So you have no idea what the power structure is or who is out there. And the fact that people kept trying to worship the devil, and the fact that God is a jealous God, means that there is a possibility that God is just jealous of the devil. So at that point, would there be a degree of accuracy to go by on how bad the devil is? Another part of that is if the Bible was true, God debates people, so God is also evil. I think it's pretty evil to say, hey, could you sacrifice your son to please me? And they go, and they like go to kill their son and they, hey, psych, I was just kidding. Like, if I was a parent, I would get the CPS called on me for doing that to my kid. If they were like, hey, you have to kill your cat to please me. And the kid's like, I don't want it. Oh my god, my poor cat. And the poor kid's traumatized. So, like, if the Bible's true, I don't trust either of the deities. Knowing that my soul has to go to one of them is troubling information. This is such a good point. Yeah. Also, if the Bible is even slightly true, the problem then becomes how much of it is true. Because some of it is false because there have been multiple kings who rewrote it for their own personal benefit. The Romans rewrote it, King James rewrote it. There were loads of people who changed bits and edited books out. There was the Book of Magdalene, which was edited out. So the women contributors to the Bible have all been removed. Which means that there are massive chunks of context to understand who best to give your soul to that are completely gone. So with that, I'd feel like really, it would be very, very difficult for me to decide what to do if the devil asked for my soul. Given that information, I'd be like, I don't have enough information to make the smart choice here. So now you have a soul? No, we're talking in hypotheticals. So I don't really believe in a soul. I don't know that a soul exists. But if it does, and I had to choose whether or not to give it to a deity I only just found out existed for reals, I would really struggle to know what to do based on any of the documentation surrounding that deity. At all. Would you trade it for Kit Kat bar? Um, maybe. Depends on where I am in relation to my period, I think. I think if I'm coming up to my period, that's a much, much harder question. Is your love conditional? Yes. I feel like love is only real when it's conditional. I feel like unconditional love is when you enjoy a role in someone's life and that's about you, and that's not really love. So, like, if you set boundaries with your partner and it's like, if you never try to murder me, and if you never show any attributes that are contrary to the personality I've fallen in love with, then I'll stay with you. But if you start beating me or killing my pets or like trying to burn my house down, I will stop loving you and I will break up with you. I feel like that's real love. Because if you could love someone no matter who they became or how they acted or what they did, you don't really love them. You just love being with them. If you could love your kid no matter what they do, you just love being a parent. You don't love your kid, right? When you love someone, you love who they are. You don't just love that they are a thing, right? And doing that is really dangerous and puts you in line for a lot of harm. So it's really, really unhealthy to believe in and expect unconditional love. And I feel like for women especially, it's really important not to give unconditional love because we are much more targeted for violence and cruelty, deception, etc., etc. Like it can be very life-threatening in terms of relationships. There's a huge risk, right? So having boundaries and having conditions to your love is a matter of survival. And if a man ever wants you to love them unconditionally, they want you to love them like a mother, not a lover. It's like a weirdly incestuous expectation. Real relationships have boundaries, and real love that is about who you are as a person has limits. So if you had a son or a daughter and their soul or their identity or their brain had been swapped out with another person's, technically that is the body that you birthed. Technically that is your kid. Do you love them unconditionally no matter what brain they have, no matter how they behave, no matter who they become? Because that's not a love of them. That's a love of being a parent. And that's about you. That's about loving your role that you created for yourself. It's not about the person at all. They could be anyone, they could do anything. So it's not about them. You don't love them specifically. And so I think that unconditional love isn't actually love. I think unconditional love is egotistical. And that people who prioritize and expect unconditional love are more likely to be abusive because they expect you to stay with them no matter what you do to them. So, with that in mind, I don't believe in unconditional love. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's real. In that I know it exists, but I don't think it is what people claim it is. Junebug, thank you so much. I'm feeling good, thank you. I appreciate you asking. I've recovered a lot faster than I thought I would. Still can't look at my belly button most days, but I'll be fine. I believe love can stay though when it's right and it's worked on. I think sometimes it's worth working on love for a long time and working through love, even though there have been ups and downs in a relationship. But I feel like having boundaries and having like things that are a no go for you, and it's like, I will stop loving you and I will not give a shit about you if you become this. I think that's fair and acceptable. And I think that doesn't make it any less real. I think you can love someone for a few years and then grow apart and become different people. And it's like the person that I fell in love with doesn't exist anymore. And the person you became is not someone I could love. And that is okay. That is normal and healthy. I feel like your love changing over time because the person changed and still being in love with the person that they became is beautiful. And that's the best case scenario. But I do think that having boundaries to love is healthy and important and also a factor in your survival as a human being. Who you have a relationship with is a huge part of your quality of life, but it's about your safety as well. You shouldn't keep forgiving people who don't respect you and may harm you or disregard you or ruin your life. You only get one life. If it is horrible because you're constantly having to deal with some twat that used to be a good person at some point, that is not unconditional love is just stupidity at that point. You just love having a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You don't actually love the person anymore. And yeah, I don't think that unconditional love is a reasonable ask, and I don't think it's healthy. Love should have conditions. That's when it's real. And like, it's true of cats. This is why people love cats, because a cat can leave you. A cat can usually become self-sufficient and find a new home if you mistreat them. So if they choose you and they choose to stay their whole life, that is love. But a dog can't leave. A dog can't just run off your house and survive in the wild. They need you, okay? And in that circumstance, they have to love you. And this means that they'll wag their tail and follow you when you kill their brother in front of them and skin them alive. And they'll wag their tail as you take them to skin them alive too. Like, dogs will love you unconditionally. And it's suicidal, right? Because we as humans should not be trusted with that love. More humans than not are awful towards animals. I would know. I did animal rescue for many, many years of my life. And so I kind of feel like the dog loving unconditionally means the dog is utterly vulnerable. And the dog doesn't really love you. They love that you are the person who gives them food. They love your role. You could have been anyone. Anyone could have adopted them and they'd wag their tail just as hard for the food, for the safety, for the warm couch, right? They like the role that you play. They need the role that you play. That is not the same level of love as the person who chose you despite all of their options. The person who stayed because they like who you are consistently, because you didn't do anything to ruin that. Like, that is a different kind of love, and I think it hits a little deeper. And so I feel like it's really easy to see there, and a lot of people spot it. Like, with creatures that can set boundaries, you feel the love more deeply. True love has boundaries. Unconditional love is just dangerous and kind of stupid. Also, if you're a parent and your kid becomes like a mass shooter or some shit, you're allowed to not love them anymore. They betrayed you too. You went through all that pain and sacrifice, and you gave a lot of your life to prioritize and grow them and raise them, and they fucked up their life and used the life you gave them to kill. That is a betrayal. You're allowed to not love your kid anymore after they do that. So I think even parental love should be conditional. It's not real if it's not. And that might be like a controversial take, because I feel like a lot of people want unconditional love. But I feel like that's a little bit of a red flag. Because you're basically saying, I want you to love me no matter what I do to you. Thank you, Glinsta. I appreciate it. But that's just my take on it all. It's a good take. Yeah, I would kind of feel like if I had a kid, I would teach them to love conditionally. If you love someone for who they are, which is real love, then if they change that or betray that, it's okay to withdraw that love. I feel like people who don't do that will get killed by their spouse or will end up, in really horrendous, awful situations. Hey, Hell Driver, thank you so much. So you will stop loving your kid when they do something bad? No. I think, well, I'm never having kids, but if I did have a kid and they misbehaved, I wouldn't just stop loving them. That's not how that works. But I would stop loving them if they became an incel. Like, if I put all of my love and all of my investment into them and they turn around and hate all women and can't respect all women and want to kill women because they won't date them or anything, but they came from a woman and I lived with them their whole life and I raised them, I'd be like, well, you hate me too then. After everything, that's a betrayal of me too. Why would I love you? That is an utter betrayal. Like those kids that go and shoot schools because some girl turned them down for a date. I would stop loving my kid in a heartbeat if they did that. But, like, if they just misbehaved at school or, did something stupid, of course kids do that. Like, I feel like if you wanna be a parent, you have to realize that your kid isn't gonna be perfect, and they are gonna fuck up on their way to learning how to be a human being, and that's okay. I think, like, boundaries are not the same as just going, "Well, if you ever make me sad, I will cut you off forever and forget that you exist." I think that's different. Like when you get in a relationship, you love them and you don't expect them to be perfect all the time. You expect to have arguments or disagreements or, to fuck up or disappoint each other sometimes. I feel like that's normal. But like there are boundaries where it's like, if you did this, I wouldn't love you anymore because you're not the person I thought I loved. You're not the person I thought you were. And I think like murder is one of those things. Like if cold blooded murder, not self defense, but like murder, I feel like that's a very normal thing. For me as well, like, if you abused animals, like, if I was with someone for 20 years and I found out they killed a cat, I would drop them immediately. Kill the cat on purpose. Not if they, like, accidentally hit them on the road, but, like, if they were bored one day and just set fire to one in their back garden, of course I'd stop loving them. But if they spilled my favorite drink or something, I wouldn't just be like, "I don't love you anymore." If they ate the last of the Rice Krispies or whatever, I think we're still good. I thought unconditional love means loving someone without expecting them to love you back, not that they can be as terrible as much as they like. Well, my understanding of unconditional love is that it comes without conditions. You'll just love them no matter what, no matter who they become, no matter what they do, no matter who, nothing they do or how behave, you will still love them. Like the mothers who still visit their kids in prison after their kids have committed atrocities, things like that, right? Unconditional. And I just don't think that's love. But maybe that is just a bias of mine. Maybe there are people in here who believe in unconditional love and want it and expect it. And maybe you're right. Maybe because I've never had unconditional love, maybe I just can't imagine that that would be a good thing. But what I can say is like I grew up in abusive situations and I had an abusive partner. And I think loving them despite their bad actions nearly got me killed. And I think for me and many other people who have loved someone that they shouldn't, I think learning that dropping people and becoming disgusted with them and just losing that feeling is meant to happen, is natural, and is part of our evolution as a pair bonding species. There are other species that do relationships, monogamous and polyamorous as well. And those other species can fall out of love as well. And I think it's just baked into us. I think it's natural and normal. Conditional love is important. Conditional love is more real. Do you have tics in your dreams? Yes, but only when I dream that I am myself. When I have dreams and I am other people in my dreams, I don't tic, which is odd. My dad left the country to shack up with his affair girlfriend, and he made 300,000 a year and has been extremely emotionally abusive and keeps thinking I will take him back if he buys me things. That sounds terrible, Nate. I'm so sorry. That must be incredibly disappointing. The funny thing about that is, even though they'll complain, people like that are usually more proud of you when you refuse and when you stand up to them than if you fall for it. People who are manipulative and try to bribe people or pressure people into forgiving unforgivable behavior tend to hate themselves and know they are terrible people. So they dislike and are disgusted with people who love them because they're like, why would you love me? I'm a piece of shit. You're very dumb for loving me. So quite often, people who try to bribe you or love bomb you and manipulate you into liking them again will actually like you more and have more respect for you if you don't fall for it, especially if they're a narcissist. So if it turns out your dad's a narcissist, the fact that you go, "No, I don't want your money. You can't just pay to abuse me. You can't just be a piece of shit and pay over it, you dumb fuck." Um, he'll probably be more proud of you. Disappointed, and probably be more forceful in trying to manipulate you, but also low key, secretly quite proud of you. Yeah, Pete's on his bed. Can you see? He's being cute. For me personally, love isn't something I can control and isn't always logical, which is both good and bad. Sometimes you have to act and disassociate from someone you love because they've done things that shouldn't be forgiven. You need to ignore those feelings. Yeah, I think sometimes people do love someone that they shouldn't love anymore. That doesn't make it unconditional love. I think that that makes it dysfunctional love, but not unconditional. I think like missing somebody that's wronged you is natural. Bonding with someone, those feelings don't magically turn off just because you have to distance yourself from someone. But I still don't think that's unconditional. I think that it's just like the conditions aren't as rational as they should be. So maybe if they were picking their nose and eating it, it would have been easier to dump them. But because they only cheated on you, which is something unforgivable, you broke up with them and you missed them. And the love is kind of still there and you don't want it to be. But it goes, it fades. You spend some time away from them and it disappears. And that means that choosing to stop loving someone is a choice you can make. It's just very hard because you don't really truly control your feelings. Yeah, but yeah, I would label that as like dysfunctional love. You know that it's wrong, but you still feel it. But I don't think that's unconditional. But doesn't that make it conditional because you're choosing to ignore the feeling? My brain has gone blank. I think I ran out of brain calories to answer that question. This might be my sign that I need to sign out and hang out with you another day. Because I feel like I do have an answer, but my brain isn't forming the words. Do you think it's okay to discuss problems in a relationship with someone of the opposite gender? She's with him now. She's with him now? What do you mean by that? As in, like, your partner is talking to a woman about you? My brain might be too off. So, like, if I had a boyfriend and that boyfriend was confiding about the relationship to another woman, the context defines whether that's good or bad. In relationships, your boundaries are set by you two. So if you feel like this seems romantic in some way, sometimes people they monkey branch from one relationship to another. So they have their hand around a new branch before they let go of the previous one because they don't want to be alone in between. And so they might be emotionally intimate with someone and they might be emotionally intimate by confiding. Especially if they're confiding and going, my relationship is really bad and I need to escape. I feel like a lot of people who intend to cheat with someone will paint their current relationship as really bad. Like the stereotype of the man saying that he never has sex with his wife and they haven't had sex in years in order to start sleeping with another woman, even if he has been having sex with his wife, you know? And so I think it can be a red flag to complain about your relationship and use somebody that you find attractive as an emotional crutch, right? But if you're, say, if your partner has a friend that they've had since childhood and it's always been platonic, and they confide in each other about all sorts of things, they turn to each other about romantic troubles and all sorts, and it's never really been romantic. It's always been like almost like family. You know what I mean? If someone has that kind of platonic support network, that is different. However, if the person they just so happen to be emotionally confiding in is their type, is someone that they would totally smash, I would have words and say, like, I would rather our relationship stuff be private. And if you want to share private things about our relationship to this person, I will break up with you because I want to be able to have privacy. I want to be able to choose where my personal details go. And if you're going to steal that privacy, my privacy is more important to me than you. Like, I'm not making that sacrifice. It's a human right. If I have to give up on my human rights to have you, someone else can. Well, he is her new boyfriend, so yeah, then I guess that answers it for you. Absolutely answers it for you. My ex did this. He thinks I don't know about the cheating, but he also had female friends in the past he didn't have anything romantic going on with. I see. See, I do think it can be a red flag. Depending on the situation, I think it can be a red flag, but it isn't always. But I do have to go. I'm actually going to be streaming tomorrow. I have a sponsored stream. I'm going to be playing a brand new game tomorrow. So you can catch me again probably around a similar time, but I'll update you. Yeah, so hopefully I'll see some of you then. And yeah, until then, take really good care of yourself. And thanks for the interesting questions. My brain is definitely off, though. I definitely do need to go. See you later, Queen Jeff. I've never been called that before. I'll take it. Thank you. Hey, good night, everyone. You have a good